How do you think that holding Sakura-chan hostage will help you? Tsunami demanded. You'll end up with Konoha after you too. You'll tie up everyone else, and then I'll make a rock clone to tie up you and the pink one, Akira said. My rock clone will check your knots and then I'll leave. How can we trust you? Hinata said. If the Iwa Nin are after you, you're probably a missing Nin. What choice do you have? Akira said with a smirk. The only one who could stop me isn't here. Oh, we can stop you, Tsunami said. Not without the pink one's pretty little throat being opened, Akira said snidely. Everyone stared at Akira. Sakura was sweating and trying not to whimper. Tsunami had a plan. It was dangerous, but she thought she was only really putting herself at risk, so she decided to try it. She did a quick, seal-less replacement with Sakura and thrust her chains out her back. The fact that she was shorter than Sakura meant that the knife was out of position. She reached up to grab the arm that held it, but the sudden jerk from her chains impacting Akira meant that she missed. A sharp pain enveloped her right hand as she heard a gurgling sound behind her. She clutched her hand and fell to the ground. She looked over her shoulder and saw that her chains had punched through Akira's abdomen. She retracted them as she felt her own stomach try to and succeed in discharging its contents. Tsunami-chan. She heard both her teammates yell. Make sure he can't hurt us, she managed to get out. Stomach wounds don't kill immediately. She saw Sakura move over and then say mechanically after a few moments, I made sure he's dead. Hinata knelt beside her. Can you let me see your hand, Tsunami-chan? She gently took Tsunami's hand and examined it. Tsunami could not look. Sakura-chan, Hinata said, can you get some bandages from our gear? How bad is it, Hinata-chan? Tsunami asked. I am afraid that you lost most of your pinky finger, Tsunami-chan, she said. Tsunami grimaced. Sakura returned with bandages and a healing ointment that Hinata had made for everyone. Hinata wrapped the wounds. You've gone into shock, Tsunami-chan, she said. You should lay down and rest until Kurenai-sensei returns. I am so sorry, Tsunami-chan, Sakura said. I should have been more alert. Masami and Rika huddled near the coach, facing away from Tsunami. 10 minutes later, Kurenai returned with the leader of the Iwa Nin. Tsunami-chan. Kurenai exclaimed. What happened? Akira caught me by surprise, Sakura admitted embarrassedly. Tsunami-chan lost a finger rescuing me. She managed to incapacitate him in the process and I made sure that he was stopped, permanently. How come she didn't let me know? Kurenai asked. It happened too quickly and then she went into shock, Hinata explained. Yes, this is definitely Hidatsuchi, one of our Chunin-level missing Nins, the Iwa Kunoichi, Kuratsuchi, said. She severed the head and burned the body. I'll have his bounty sent for your genin. It's the least I can do for her getting maimed taking care of one of our problems. With that, the Iwa Kunoichi left. I know a limited amount of medical techniques, Kurenai said. Let me make sure it heals cleanly. Her hand glowed green as she held it near the bandages. The ache in Tsunami's hand damped down and the hot flashes she had experienced since the injury subsided. They spent the rest of the day camped at the location. As everyone was going to sleep, the thought of how the injury would affect her double life occurred to her. If Naruto had the same injury as Tsunami, it would be very suspicious. She waited until everyone except Kurenai, who was taking first watch, was asleep and then used her disguise technique to shift into her birth form. Usually, this took relatively little chakra. This time it took quite a lot, as much as 20 shadow clones. Naruto looked at his hand. The wound was gone and he had his pinky back. He shifted back to Tsunami, which took the normal amount of chakra. Her hand remained healed. She heaved a sigh of relief. Now she only had to think of an explanation. Tsunami-chan? Kurenai said softly. I felt your chakra spike. Are you alright? Yes, Tsunami said equally softly. Let's move away a little bit so that we can talk. The other two genin and their clients were asleep. Tsunami did not want to wake them. When they were at enough distance that they would have little chance of waking the others, Tsunami reached out her formerly injured hand in the dark and grabbed Kurenai's hand with it. Kurenai gasped. Your finger grew back. Not exactly, Naruto said. It got restored when I changed to my other form, which took a lot more chakra than normal. I was worried that my other form would also be missing a finger. That's great, Tsunami-chan. Her teacher said. I was worried when I couldn't find your finger. It must have gotten caught in the Iwa Nin's fire technique. They can reattach fingers? Tsunami asked. Yes, Kurenai answered. If they aren't too damaged and proper care is taken. I can't do it, but I could have preserved your finger for when we got back to Konoha. She paused. What are you going to tell the others? I'll tell them it's a rare healing bloodline that pops up in Uzumaki sometimes, Tsunami said. It's more or less true. From what I can tell, my mother could do the true transformation as well due to the fox. I expect that I'll pass on the fox to one of my descendants when I get too old, just like Mito Oba-san did to Kaken. That could work, Kurenai said. I would, however, keep the fact that it healed hidden from our client and her staff. It's better not to have any rumors floating around. You can tell Hinata-chan and Sakura-chan when we head back to Konoha. Alright, Kurenai-sensei, Tsunami responded. Head back to bed, Tsunami-chan, Kurenai directed. Even with the unholy amount of stamina you have, this day has been really trying for you. Get some rest. Okay, sensei, she responded, heading back to her sleeping mat. A subdued group left the campsite the next morning. Tsunami waved off any concerns about her health. She followed Kurenai's advice and wrapped up her hand so that it was hard to tell that her finger had returned. Luckily, they were able to make it to Takamatsukaru by evening. After a brief hesitation, Kurenai directed the genin to remain outside the daimyo's palace while she met with the daimyo and received the remainder of the payment due Konoha. They spent the night in a hotel in the city. Kurenai signaled that they should remain quiet about the mission and its results before sending them to bed. The next morning, they left Takamatsukaru at the distance-eating shinobi travel pace. After they had traveled for an hour, Kurenai had them slow to a walk. Normally, I would have had you meet the daimyo with me, she said. It would be a good experience for you, especially Hinata-chan and Tsunami-chan, based on their goals and backgrounds. However, I decided that Tsunami-chan's injury would raise too many questions. Wouldn't it have been advantageous to gain more sympathy, sensei? Sakura asked. Normally, that would be true, Sakura-chan, their teacher replied. However, this time. Why don't you show them, Tsunami-chan? Tsunami nodded and unwrapped the bandage on her formerly injured hand. How? Sakura exclaimed. I healed it through a rare Uzumaki bloodline, Tsunami said. Not all of us have it, but it shows up every generation or two. Sakura slammed into her and hugged her fiercely. I am so glad that you didn't lose your finger because of me, Tsunami-chan. Tsunami awkwardly returned the hug. At one time, she had had a small crush on the girl as Naruto, before her attitude and fangirlish behavior had turned him off. It's okay, Sakura-chan, she said. Even if I couldn't have healed it, I would have done it to save one of my friends. Sakura nodded and blinked back tears as she released her. Does Naruto-kun have the bloodline too? Hinata asked. Hesitantly Tsunami nodded. He does, which is unusual that we both have it. Our mom had it too, but before that the last person who had it was our mom's great-great-aunt. There's no guarantee that any of our kids would get it. Why hide the bloodline from Teki no Kuni? Hinata asked. I thought Konoha liked to showcase its bloodline abilities. There's a balance between showcasing talent to increase Konoha's reputation and protecting our shinobi from assassination or kidnapping, especially rookie genin, Kurenai said. In general, policy is to hide stuff like this until our shinobi are strong enough to fight in the Chunin exam finals. Sometimes it can't be helped, such as when they are members of a prominent clan, but Hokage-sama was explicit in Tsunami-chan's case because she doesn't have clan members to help protect her. The rest of the journey passed without incident. When they arrived in Konoha, they all reported the mission to the Hokage. After the basic report was finished, Kurenai dismissed Hinata and Sakura so that they could discuss Tsunami's bloodline under a privacy seal. After listening to Tsunami describe how she had recovered her finger, the Hokage thoughtfully smoked his pipe. What are the limitations of this, Tsunami-chan? Do you know? I think the only limitations are being aware enough to transform and having enough chakra, she replied. Do you think you could tap into the Kyuubi's chakra to do it? The Hokage asked. Tsunami started. I don't know. Ivy never actually used the fox's chakra. She glanced at Kurenai and decided to be circumspect. Her sensei did not know about her mom's presence in her seal. A feature of my seal kicked in when I was 5 and had enough chakra to support it. This feature buffers me from the Kyuubi's chakra and influence. This is why people like the Hyuga and the Aburame haven't twigged to the fact that I is Tsunami am a Jinchuriki. The only reason they know that I is Naruto am a Jinchuriki is that they knew me before the feature took effect. There was actually a minor panic when that happened, the Hokage admitted. Some of my shinobi were afraid you had released the Kyuubi. Huh, Tsunami said. I hadn't realized. We didn't want to alarm you, he replied. I had Jiraiya-kun check your seal while you were asleep. The Hokage dismissed them and Tsunami returned to her apartment after stopping by Ramen Ichiraku for her fix. Kurenai had given them 3 days off to recover from the mission. The next Wednesday, Naruto attended training with Kakashi's team. As was customary, Kakashi had them do taijutsu-only sparring. As usual, Sasuke beat the other 3, although this time his match with Naruto was close. Naruto and Kiba split their matches and Shino lost all of his. By early afternoon, Kakashi ended the training. Kiba and Shino both excused themselves to go do some clan training. You want to go again, dead last? Sasuke asked after they were the only ones left. Sure, jerk, Naruto responded. Kakashi had made them promise that any extracurricular sparring they did would be taijutsu only. He had explained that using weapons or ninjutsu while sparring unsupervised was a recipe for disaster. Naruto and the others suspected that was why most of the sparring they did in team training was taijutsu only as well. Kakashi was too lazy to supervise them closely. Naruto managed to eke out a win against Sasuke by outlasting him. Sasuke lay on his back, panting, to recover. Naruto lay down next to him in order to relax. How were you dead last in the academy? Sasuke asked. You remember how I said that Mizuki sabotaged my final exam? Naruto said. He also sabotaged my other tests and classwork. He wasn't the only one either, the teacher I had before Irika-sensei did it too. I am actually as good as my sister, she's a little better in taijutsu, but I am tougher. I probably would have graduated just slightly behind her at number 5 if it weren't for Mizuki and others like him. Why would they do that? Sasuke asked. Naruto hesitated. Sasuke was becoming a friend of sorts, a friendly rival, at least. The Hokage had told him he could tell others about the Kyuubi if he trusted them, but he hesitated. Finally, he answered, I inherited a weapon, a very powerful weapon. Hokage Ji-chan tells me it belonged to my mother before me, but he won't tell me any details because he says that if I let others know, it could be a danger to myself and Konoha. The weapon is very powerful and dangerous, but can only be safely handled by Uzumaki. There was a leak when I was a few days old that let many of the adults in the village know that I had the weapon. Most of the shinobi in the village are a little wary of me because of the weapon, but they mostly treat me all right. The civilians, on the other hand, are freaked out because of some accidents that happened with the weapon in the past. They treat me like a burning explosive node about to go off. They think that if I don't become a shinobi that the weapon will be less likely to be deployed. Some shinobi are of the same opinion. Unfortunately, most of those seem to be at the academy. Ever hear the expression, those that can't do, teach? There's a certain amount of truth to that. The weapon is utilized via a seal and that isn't a topic you need to know in order to teach at the academy, so I don't think that many of the instructors there understand it. Sasuke grunted. People are stupid. After a brief pause, he asked. So only an Uzumaki can control it? You can't duplicate it? Ji-chan said that only an Uzumaki can hold it long term. It would be detrimental for anyone else to try. It is one of a kind. I wouldn't know where to begin to duplicate it and would be very hesitant to try. To tell you the truth, I don't even know how to use it. It's so destructive I am hesitant to try and figure it out. Sasuke grunted. You looking for an advantage against your brother? Naruto asked. Sasuke grunted in agreement. After a few moments, he asked, how did you know about that? Kiba-kun told me about your response during team introductions, Naruto responded. It wasn't hard to figure out who the man you wanted to kill was. Sasuke grunted again. Naruto had an evil thought. He also said you wanted to rebuild your clan. Why haven't you gotten started at that? He paused and then went in for the kill. Most of the boys in class were convinced you were gay, seeing as how you ignored all the girls that were after you. I am not. Sasuke protested. Most of the girls in class weren't worthy of pursuit. Naruto laughed loudly. Sasuke smirked. The only one in our class I would consider is your sister. She and Hinata-san are the only ones that aren't worthless fangirls, and Hinata-san is too shy and insecure. Naruto stopped laughing. His dual life had left him unsure of how he felt about dating, but the idea of dating Sasuke as Tsunami turned his stomach. Sasuke waved away his incipient protest with a grunt and said, "Don't worry about me chasing your sister or bringing down the wrath of the fangirls upon her." Naruto interrupted him to say, "Tsunami-chan can easily handle any and all of the fangirls." Sasuke grunted in affirmation before continuing. "I am still too young to be thinking too seriously about dating and what comes after. Too much can happen between now and when I would get married. Besides, any girl I attach myself to is likely to become a target for Itachi." Naruto grunted in response. The day after training with Team Kakashi, Team Kurinai resumed their normal training/mission schedule. After a week of D-rank missions, Kurinai said they were ready for their second C rank. Kakashi had taken his squad on their first C rank the previous day, so Tsunami did not even have to think of a way to get her as Naruto out of the next training with them. Their second C rank mission was to deliver a scroll to a Konoha outpost on the border between Kawa no Kuni and Hai no Kuni. The trip to the outpost was short, 2 days at a jog. At the end of the first day on the road after camp was set up, Sakura subjected the other two genin to another sermon on why Sasuke was so great. "Sakura-chan," Tsunami interrupted her, "did you know that my brother has become a friend of Sasuke-san?" "What?" Sakura exclaimed. "There's no way an idiot like your brother is friends with Sasuke-kun." "Sakura-chan." Tsunami snapped, irritated with the way her friend always talked about her other half. Sakura chuckled nervously. "Sorry, Tsunami-chan. Your brother is just so irritating with his pranks and boasting." Tsunami huffed. "Anyway, Sasuke-san and my brother actually have a fair amount in common. They're both orphans with lonely childhoods who spend a lot of time training to cope. It's somewhat natural they would be friends. Naruto-kun has been training with Sasuke-san's team once a week by invitation of their sensei." "What?" Sakura exclaimed. "Why?" Kakashi-sensei said that Naruto-kun was originally supposed to be on his team until he was sabotaged into failing the original genin exam and decided to go into the reserves. Kakashi-sensei must have felt bad about it. "He was sabotaged? He's in the reserves?" Sakura asked, confused. "Yes," Tsunami answered, irritated. "You know he's about as good as I am. Did you really think he failed a legitimate test?" "But he was the dead last," Sakura said. "It wasn't just the final exam that was sabotaged." Tsunami snapped. With how smart Sakura was, her decided lack of observational skills was annoying. Sakura looked at her blankly. "You remember what we talked about when my whisker marks came out?" Tsunami asked. "Most of the village dislikes Naruto-kun because of that, and there are a substantial number that outright hate him. Mizuki-sensei and a few of the other teachers were like that." "That's idiotic," Sakura said. "Even if the Kyuubi wasn't dead and he was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, treating him poorly because of that could have a serious backlash on the village." Tsunami froze up. She felt the blood drain from her face. "Wait," Sakura said. "He is? Is that what the marks are from?" She looked at Tsunami a little nervously. Tsunami supposed that defending a Jinchuriki in abstract was easier than doing it in person. Hinata was watching the two of them with even wider eyes than normal. Tsunami struggled to get control of herself after having one of her darkest secrets discovered by one of her friends. "Not exactly," she finally said. "Our mother was the Kyuubi's second Jinchuriki. That is why we have the marks." "Second?" Sakura asked curiously. "Uzumaki Mito-sama, the wife of the Shodai Hokage, was the first," Tsunami said. "I am surprised that I haven't seen the signs of Naruto-kun being a Jinchuriki," Hinata said. "We Hyuga are taught to see them. The Kyuubi is buried so deeply in Naruto-kun's seal that nobody has seen a trace of it since he was 5, Tsunami answered. "He's never drawn on its power and isn't really even sure how to do so." Hokage Ji-chan thinks he could if he were in a life-threatening situation. Does this change how you feel about him? She asked both her teammates, but her gaze lingered on Hinata. I guess not, Sakura said, chuckling nervously. He's still a goof, he's just a goof with a massive amount of power on his hands. She trailed off nervously. Tsunami rolled her eyes. When has Naruto-kun ever played a truly dangerous or malicious prank? He's even stopped pranking altogether since graduation. Really? Asked Sakura. Tsunami nodded firmly. He's trying to be a respectable seal master. I think the way that Naruto-kun has handled the challenges he's been handed is admirable, Hinata said firmly. She was still looking down at the ground, but her stuttering had been absent for once. How did the Kyuubi get released from your mother? Sakura asked. The seal on a female Jinchuriki often weakens during birth, Tsunami said sadly. The village leaders knew this and made preparations to combat the weakness, but a masked man interfered and released the Kyuubi. Both our parents died as a result of the attack and Yondaime-sama was forced to seal the beast into Naruto-kun at the cost of his life. And you don't know who did this? Hinata asked. Tsunami shook her head. Kurinai spoke for the first time. Tsunami had forgotten she was nearby. What you have stumbled onto is an S-rank secret. Hokage-sama has forbidden spreading the fact that Naruto-san is a Jinchuriki on pain of death. But, Kurinai-sensei, Tsunami-chan says that everyone already knows. Sakura protested. It's true that most of the adults know, Kurinai admitted, but Hokage-sama wanted Naruto-kun to have a normal life and be able to grow up without prejudice. It hasn't exactly worked as he intended, but the decree still exists. Do you understand, Sakura-chan, Hinata-chan? I understand, sensei, both girls said. Everyone was quiet for a few minutes. Tsunami was uncomfortable with the silence, so she decided to bring up the topic she was going to talk to Sakura about before they got sidetracked. I was going to tell you, Sakura-chan, that Naruto-kun has talked to Sasuke-san a fair amount since graduation. One of the things that Sasuke-san told my brother is that he despises weak fangirls and will only marry a strong kunoichi. You want Sasuke-kun for yourself? Sakura accused angrily. Tsunami rolled her eyes. There is zero chance that I would marry Sasuke. Sakura narrowed her eyes. I don't believe you. Sasuke-kun is perfect. There's no way you don't secretly like him. Tsunami huffed and Hinata shook her head. He's not perfect, Tsunami asserted, but even if he was, I couldn't marry him. Why not? Sakura said suspiciously. Tsunami sighed. He's the last of the Uchiha and Naruto-kun and I are the last of the Uzumaki, as far as we know. Any husband I take would be required to marry into the Uzumaki clan and Sasuke-san would never be willing to do so. The reverse is true as well. She had thought about this a lot since Sasuke's last conversation with her as Naruto about girls. The other reason is that she had decided that she could not risk getting pregnant so that what happened to her mother could not happen to her. The decision left her with an odd pang of regret. Before the talk with Sasuke, she had purposely avoided thinking about sex since her mother had given her the talk when she turned 10. Now the thought of having sex as a girl filled her with a sense of vulnerability and disgust, and, if she were honest with herself, a small amount of curiosity, but somehow the thought of not carrying a baby inside her left her strangely empty and lacking. Is that what happened to your father? Hinata asked. He married into the Uzumaki? Not exactly, Tsunami admitted. Circumstances did not allow him to take her name, but they had agreed that all of their children would be Uzumaki. Her parents' marriage was secret, so her father could not take the Uzumaki name publicly. While the Namikaze were not a shinobi clan, Namikaze Minato was a famous shinobi name. It was unlikely that her father would have changed his name even after the marriage was known. So Sasuke-kun wants a strong kunoichi as a wife? Sakura asked tentatively. Tsunami nodded. While I suppose he wouldn't go for an ugly woman, he finds strength more attractive than any civilian concept of beauty. I think you shouldn't worry about trying to impress him at this point in your life, but if you really can't leave it alone, the best thing you can do is train hard and become a superior kunoichi. Sakura nodded thoughtfully before a more comfortable silence than before enveloped the camp. The drop-off of the scroll at the outpost went off without a hitch. However, on the way back Tsunami and her team ran into a roadblock manned by 3 bandits. Tsunami's clones had warned them that they were there as well as the ones hiding in the forest. Kurenai had elected to spring their trap. One of them, probably the leader, held a sword. The other two carried spiked clubs. "What do we have here?" the bandit with the sword said. "3 little girls and a big girl playing at being ninja?" "Girls," said Kurenai, repeating what she had told them earlier for the bandits' benefit. "Most of our missions until you reach Chunin will be clearing out bandits like this. I want you to take the lead on this. I'll back you up." "I think the older one is scared," said one of the others. "Hardly," said Kurenai. "Feisty," said the third. "I call dibs on her." "I want the redhead," said the second. "No way did you just say that," snarled Tsunami. Hinata started to tremble beside her. Tsunami put a steadying hand on her shoulder. "These guys are chumps, Hinata-chan. You don't have any reason to be nervous." The one with the sword said, "If you really are ninja, just the 3 of us might have trouble with you, but unlucky for you, we're not alone." He whistled and the 13 men Tsunami knew were hiding came out of the forest. "That's it?" Tsunami complained for effect. "I can handle twice your number by myself." "Calm down, Tsunami-chan," Kurenai said, grinning slightly. "I want you to take care of the new ones and make sure none of them escape. Hinata-chan, I want you to handle the leaders. Sakura-chan, I want you to back up Hinata-chan and make sure that she doesn't get overwhelmed." All 3 girls voiced their acknowledgement. "Shadow clone technique," Tsunami called. Even though she did not need to call the name of the technique, she thought doing so added to the intimidation effect. She summoned 45 clones, which would allow 3 clones per bandit and leave a few for Overwatch. This was probably more than she needed, but figured it was better safe than sorry. She kept herself out of the main fight, only darting in twice when bandits got lucky against her clones. She and her clones were rough with them. Some of them were likely to have bad concussions, but they were rapists and associates of rapists, so she did not feel bad. When it was all said and done, Naruto had ended up killing 2 of the bandits with blows that snapped their necks. Of the remaining 11 that she had fought, another 2 appeared to be in comas. She was a little disconcerted, but it was not as violent or bloody as what had happened on the Taki trip with the false tutor. Hinata had disabled 2 of hers, including the leader, using the gentle fist. Sakura had ended up killing the 3rd with a kunai to the throat. Sakura was kneeling on the ground and had vomited. Kurenai was currently comforting her. Several of the bandits were screaming or moaning in pain. Tsunami dug some paralyzation seals out of her supplies and applied them to all of the surviving bandits. When Sakura had recovered enough, Kurenai said, "We need to find their camp and make sure there aren't any more of them." "Hinata-chan, is it in range?" Hinata activated her Byakugan. "It's not, Kurenai-sensei." Kurenai nodded in acknowledgement. "Tsunami-chan, send out 6 or 8 scouting clones in all directions. Have them use your sensing technique and move carefully enough that they won't be spotted first." "Okay, sensei," Tsunami said. She wordlessly formed 8 shadow clones and sent them out. 15 minutes later she received the memories of a clone 2 kilometers to the northwest. Her mind's eye technique had told her that there were 3 bandits. The clone had snuck close enough to verify that it was definitely the bandit camp. "There are 3 bandits at the camp. It's about 2 kilometers to the northwest," she relayed to her team. Kurenai had Tsunami leave shadow clone guards over their prisoners and the team went to the camp. As they approached, Kurenai said, "Hinata-chan, can you verify 3 bandits?" After activating her jujitsu, Hinata said, "Yes, Kurenai-sensei, there are 3. 2 are sitting around a campfire and 1 is asleep in a tent." "Tsunami-chan," Kurenai said, "I want you to disable the one in the tent with a seal, if you can, while the rest of us confront the 2 that are awake. If he wakes up, handle him however you see fit." "Okay, sensei," she replied. As Tsunami snuck around to the tent where she felt the bandit using her mind's eye, she heard Kurenai announce their presence. "We are shinobi from Konohagakure no Sato and are exercising our treaty obligations with the daimyo of Hai no Kuni to arrest you for suspected banditry. Throw down your weapons and submit to a search of your camp. If evidence is found of banditry, you will be transported to the nearest magistrate to stand trial. If you resist, we are authorized and willing to exercise lethal force. We have already dispatched those who we believe to be your comrades in crime. One of the two called out something vulgar and Tsunami heard the sounds of a brief scuffle. The man in the tent was oblivious to it all and she slapped a paralyzation seal on him and activated it. A brief search of the camp confirmed that they were bandits who killed and raped and were likely involved in some occasional human trafficking. Tsunami sealed the evidence into storage seals and used shadow clones to create enough prisoner scrolls to transport the bandits. Kurenai admitted that the usual practice was to kill bandits, especially those caught in murder, rape, or human trafficking, but said that she did not think that the genin were ready to execute prisoners yet. They were a day late returning to Konoha, but not late enough to worry anyone, due to dealing with the bandits and dropping them off at the closest village. Tsunami suspected that they would receive a very speedy trial and execution as the village had not appeared to have the facilities to hold that many bandits. When Sakura had asked why they did not take them all to Konoha for trial, Kurenai explained that the nearest village was likely their primary victims and deserved to decide their fate. Naruto continued to train as Tsunami with her team, but most of his progress still occurred in his mindscape, training under his mother. His main training focus was Fuinjutsu and the chakra seal manifestation technique. He was able to use chakra seal manifestation to create a simple seal with his palm or fingertips that lasted up to 2 minutes. Excellent work, son, his mother said as an explosive seal he had left on a post in their training meadow blew up after holding it for almost 2 minutes. Your work in Fuinjutsu has also advanced enough so that I can show you the seal for the adamantine sealing chains. Awesome! He shouted. His mother smiled indulgently at him. I want you to keep working on the chakra seal manifestation. Your next goals should be to be able to hold 5 seals active and to be able to manifest the chakra for them from your feet. Naruto groaned good-naturedly. She smirked. Just wait until you have to manifest them from the tips of your adamantine attacking chains. He groaned not so good-naturedly. Kurenai had given them a few days off to recover from the bandit encounter. After that it was more D ranks. When Tsunami started agitating for another C rank, Kurenai put her off. What? Tsunami complained. You know we can handle it, Kurenai-sensei. I was considering nominating you 3 for the Chunin exams, Kurenai said idly, but if you'd rather do C ranks instead. No way, sensei, Tsunami said. Bring on the Chunin exams. Right, girls? Do you think Sasuke-kun will be there? Sakura asked. Tsunami glared at her while Kurenai frowned. Sakura chuckled nervously. I didn't mean it like that. I would only take the exams if I thought I was ready, not just to see him. I was just curious is all. Do you really think we're ready, Kurenai-sensei? Hinata asked. I think you're ready to compete, Kurenai said. Very few pass on their first try and it is somewhat dangerous. However, I am confident that you can handle the dangers and put in a good showing. The choice is up to each of you, but I will be nominating you so that if you want to do so, you can participate. The exams are good training and a good chance to see how you measure up to your peers. Thanks, sensei. Tsunami said. A few days later, Team 7 returned from their C-rank mission. Sasuke sought out Naruto to talk to him about it. Naruto's long-term shadow clone was able to make excuses to put it off until Naruto could talk to him in person. Say goodbye to your lucky wins in team spars, Naruto-san. Sasuke boasted, showing off red eyes with single tomos swirling around their shrunken pupils. Naruto smirked. Congrats on the Sharingan. You do realize that 90% of the spars Kakashi-sensei has us do our taijutsu only because he's too lazy to properly spot for us, right? He's just going to tell you to turn them off. Sasuke grunted. You don't know the half of it, he complained. Most of the time when you aren't there he has us doing only pointless team-building exercises. So what has he actually taught you? Naruto asked curiously. Sasuke grunted again. Besides a little coaching in taijutsu and some communication skills, the first thing he taught us was tree walking, which he only taught us during our last mission because we were facing an A-rank missing nin. What? Really? Naruto exclaimed. Sasuke proceeded to tell him about their near-disastrous mission to Nami no Kuni to protect a bridge builder. After he was done, Naruto said, Man, you guys are lucky. That mission could have gone wrong in so many ways. Sasuke frowned. As much as I hate to admit it, that's true. At one point, I thought I was dying even though I had gained the Sharingan by that point. I even passed on my mission of vengeance to Kiba-san, only to find out later that the idiot mutt had succumbed moments after me. We were lucky that by that time Kakashi-sensei was about to finish off Zabuza, or else he would have been in a rough spot. He turned to Naruto and said, "If I ever do die on a mission, I want you to be the one to go after Itachi and kill him." "Me?" Naruto asked, shocked. "Why me? What about Kiba-kun and Shino-kun?" "Because I know you'll never give up on your promise," Sasuke said seriously. "You also understand what he did to me better than anyone else." "Okay, Sasuke-kun," Naruto said. "I promise I'll hunt down Itachi if you die, but I'll do it my way." Naruto smirked. Sasuke grunted. "I wouldn't expect you to do things the normal way, dead last." 3 days before the Chunin exams were scheduled to begin at the end of team practice, Kurinai said, "Girls, I want you to know that I am proud of your progress. The day after tomorrow is the day of the official nominations for the Chunin exams." "Why are the nominations so close to the day of the exams, sensei?" Sakura asked. "Shouldn't teams be given more time to prepare?" Kurinai shrugged. "It's tradition for when the exams are in Konoha for sensei to spring it on their students. Not every sensei does, and some genin are aware enough or connected enough to know anyway. I personally think the tradition is silly and a little dangerous, but it started with Shodai-sama back when the exams were Konoha only. I, obviously, am not following the tradition." She looked at her students and said, "I want you to take the next 2 days easy. You'll do better if you're relaxed and rested going into the exam than if you train up until the last minute. We'll meet briefly after the nomination meeting at 1 o'clock. If I am late, don't worry about it, it will be because Hataki-san passed a team this year." "Why would that matter?" Hinata asked. "Hataki Kakashi-san is late to nearly everything," Tsunami said. "My brother trains with his team once a week at Kakashi-san's invitation. He's usually an hour late to those practices, and Kiba-san says that means he likes my brother because he's usually 2 or 3 hours late." "He'd be late to a meeting with Hokage-sama and all those other jounin?" asked Sakura, scandalized. She paled and then exclaimed, "And he's Sasuke-kun's sensei." "He's probably the most talented jounin that Konoha currently has active," said Kurinai. "That gives him some leeway." She shrugged again. "Enough about Hataki-san and his bad habits. Enjoy tomorrow. Do something fun and then spend the next morning thinking about whether you want to participate in the exams. If you decide not to, that's fine, most genin don't participate the first time they're eligible." "We're not most genin, Kurinai-sensei," Tsunami exclaimed. Kurinai excused herself. Tsunami prepared to say goodbye to her teammates. She was looking forward to spending some time as Naruto over the next couple of days. With training and missions, she felt she did not have enough time to spend as what she still thought of as her natural self. She did not really mind being Tsunami, especially since it allowed her to avoid most of the villagers' animosity and she did not have to worry about her career being sabotaged as much, but her thoughts were interrupted by Sakura saying, "We should do something together tomorrow." Tsunami absently said, "Kurinai-sensei asked us not to train until the exams." "No, silly," Sakura said. "We should do something fun together." Tsunami frowned. She found training fun. Even her relaxation plans for tomorrow involved reading some Fuinjutsu scrolls. Sakura snorted. "I never thought I'd say this in a million years, Tsunami-chan, but you should be more like your brother sometimes. You're always so serious and you've gotten more and more serious in the 2 years I've known you." Tsunami was shocked. Was her Tsunami personality that different than her Naruto one? What Sakura did not know was that the Naruto that she was talking about was also a mask that she had used to get attention and push her limits. Sakura also did not know that Naruto acted a lot more professional when he was out in public now for the sake of his Fuinjutsu business. The only time he really pranked anyone or acted juvenile anymore was when Konohamaru tracked him down. Although she admitted that occasionally he placed himself so that the boy could find him on purpose. Who was the real Naruto? Did such a person exist? She decided that she was the most real when she was with her mother in her mindscape. What did that say about her that she really only showed herself to a person that was not even really alive anymore? "Shocking, I know," Sakura said with a smirk. "Please don't tell him I said it." "What do you say, Tsunami-chan, Hinata-chan?" "I'd like that, Sakura-chan," Hinata said quietly, pushing her fingers together. The shy girl did not stutter as much as she used to, unless the topic of Tsunami's brother came up, but she still exhibited a number of nervous habits. Tsunami realized that Hinata, as the failed heiress of the Hyuga, probably did not have any peers she could interact with as friends other than her teammates. While she somewhat dreaded whatever girly thing Sakura thought would be fun, she did want to spend some time with her friends and also did not want to take this chance away from Hinata. She decided to agree, but give herself an out. She even pushed down the temptation to send her long-term clone. Okay, Tsunami answered. I wanted to spend some time with my brother, but I'd like to spend some time with you girls too. When the girls met up the next morning, Sakura suggested that they go shopping for outfits. I don't need any new outfits, Tsunami protested. What I have suits me fine. You're such a tomboy, Tsunami-chan, Sakura said. I've only ever seen you wear shinobi-style clothes. Tsunami shrugged. It's not like I ever get invited to social events. My kunoichi clothes were fine for visiting you or Ino-chan. Don't you ever want to dress up or impress someone? Sakura asked. The redhead snorted. Who am I going to impress? Naruto-kun? Isn't there someone you want to catch the notice of? Sakura pressed. Aren't shinobi supposed to go unnoticed? Tsunami responded, confused. After a moment, she realized that Sakura was probing to see if she liked someone romantically. The truth was that the thought of becoming involved with a boy freaked her out, and the thought of becoming involved with a girl as Tsunami confused her. Girls stayed away from Naruto, and she was too proud to go after anyone that hated her male self blindly or gave into peer pressure that easily. That only left Hinata, whom she had already dismissed as a current option because of the likelihood of that earning her the caged bird seal and the fact that Kushina would demand that she reveal her secret dual identity, and she was totally against that for now. Being that she was not quite 13, she was fine with avoiding romantic entanglements for now. Sakura, however, did not see it that way, so Tsunami always played dumb when Sakura tried to get her to spill about her non-existent romantic feelings. It helped that Tsunami actually was somewhat dense about the subject. Sakura rolled her eyes and grabbed Tsunami's hand. Come on, she said. It'll be fun. Okay, the redhead whined, but I have the right to veto anything with too much lace or too many bows. Hinata giggled as she followed her more outgoing teammates. To her surprise, Tsunami did have fun. She and Sakura ganged up on Hinata to convince the shy girl to try on something a little more fun than her normal conservative outfits. Then the other two had ganged up on Tsunami to get her to try on the frilliest, girliest dress they could find. Both girls let themselves be convinced. Hinata was easier than the stubborn Uzumaki. They finally did it by appealing to the redhead's pride with a bit of reverse psychology. Tsunami could tell that Hinata really wanted to try on the outfit they had picked out, but thought it would not be proper. Tsunami looked down at the pink monstrosity she was wearing. I can't believe you talked me into this. Part of the fun is wearing something you normally wouldn't, Sakura said. Oh? Said Tsunami with a wide grin. I have the perfect thing for you to try on then. The pink-haired girl gulped. When I said that you should be more like your brother, Tsunami-chan, I didn't mean right now. Sakura-chan, she scolded. No backing out. She ran and found a bright orange tracksuit that she had seen earlier. It was not quite the same as she used to wear as a boy, but it was close. This is for all the times I bad-mouthed your brother, isn't it? Sakura said with a grimace. While he is partial to orange, most stores wouldn't sell him anything else, Tsunami said. She grinned. I could look for some spandex. Fine, Sakura said with a groan. You got me. After Sakura had changed, they all stood next to each other. I think Hinata-chan got off easy, Tsunami said. The dark-haired girl was wearing a form-flattering, but still modest little black dress. Hinata's eyes widened and she started pressing her fingers together. Cut her some slack, Nami-chan, said Sakura. Tsunami raised an eyebrow. While they were friends, they had never been that informal. You don't mind, do you? Sakura asked. Tsunami had never much cared for formality. I don't mind, if I can call you Kura-chan. The two of them turned to look at Hinata. You can call me Nata-chan, she said shyly. Great. Tsunami said. We spend too much time together to be worried about full names. Sakura nodded in agreement. After that they tried on clothes that they each actually liked. Tsunami caught sight of a bored young man waiting for who she assumed was his girlfriend. She gave him a mental salute in commiseration. Participating was much more fun than just waiting around. After about an hour they bought some things to thank the store for allowing them to monopolize some of their dressing rooms for so long. They had ended up buying matching sundresses in red, green, and lavender. It was the first dress that Tsunami had ever owned, but she admitted that it looked good on her. Hinata was pretty nervous about hers, since it was so different than her normal wear. "It'll be fine, Nata-chan," Sakura said. "You don't have to wear it in public if you don't want to." After that, Tsunami insisted that they go look at some shinobi equipment stores. She took them to Higarashi's store first. The girls split up to do some browsing. After about 15 minutes, Sakura called out to her. When Tsunami went to where she was looking, she saw that she was looking at the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu display. Hinata approached them too. "Are these yours?" Sakura asked. "A couple of them might still be," the redhead said. "We split the task of making them before graduation. Naruto-kun does them all now. He really is smarter than everyone gave him credit for," Sakura said. "Told you," Tsunami said smugly. "I always knew there was more to Naruto-kun," Hinata said quietly and then blushed when the other two looked at her. After they had browsed at a few more stores, including a Kunoichi specialty store, Tsunami said, "I am going to meet Naruto-kun at Ramen Ichiraku for lunch. You two are welcome to come with me." Sakura was subjected to puppy dog eyes from Hinata, begging her to come. The pink-haired girl rolled her eyes but acquiesced. Tsunami replaced herself with a hidden shadow clone as they approached the store and then used her special disguise technique to change to her birth form. He then switched with his long-term clone who was approaching. He formed and dispelled a clone so that his other clones would know what was going on. Since the exams were bound to last multiple days, he wanted some time as Naruto. He had done this for their last C rank since Kurenai had given them warning. The long-term clone then disguised into Tsunami and left to wait for an opportune time to switch with the Tsunami shadow clone that was with the others. Naruto walked up to the stand and greeted his sister and her teammates. The clone returned his greeting. Sakura greeted him far more pleasantly than she usually did his male self, although it still was not overly friendly. Hinata ducked her head bashfully. "Old man," Naruto called. "2 miso ramen to start." "Oi." Tucci called back. "How's my favorite customer?" "I thought I was your favorite customer," the Tsunami clone said with a pout. "Sorry, Tsunami-chan," the ramen vendor said with a grin. "You are a favorite, but you've only been coming here for 2 years. Did I hear my favorite pair of twins?" Ayam said as she came out from the back. "Hi, I am Ne-chan," Naruto and his clone said in unison. Sakura shuddered. "I wish you wouldn't do that. I don't need to be reminded of how close in personality you two really are." "But Kara-chan," the clone said, "you said." Sakura clamped a hand over the clone's mouth and glared at her. "You going to be good?" she asked after a moment. The clone nodded and Sakura released her. "What's going on?" Naruto asked. Hinata pressed her fingers together and said with a slight stutter, "Since we didn't have to train or do missions today, Tsunami-chan's prankster personality has come out more than normal." Naruto grinned widely. The Tsunami clone joined him with her own grin. "When both of them get going." Tucci shuddered exaggeratedly. "No," Sakura said firmly. The clone pouted. "But..." "No," the pink-haired girl repeated. "A small amount is fine, but when both of you get going." The Uzumaki twins smirked. The girls ordered and a few minutes later Ayam brought out their orders. As Naruto was finishing up, he heard Konohamaru shout, "Boss." He turned and saw Konohamaru approach with his 2 friends. "Boss. We've been looking for you for days." Naruto's long-term clone rarely left their apartment unless he was delivering seals, so this was not a surprise. "What for?" he asked. "We want you to play ninja with us," the Hokage's grandson exclaimed. Sakura laughed mockingly. Even a reserve shinobi has better things to do than play ninja with a bunch of kids. "Hey, boss, is she your girlfriend?" Konohamaru asked with a too innocent expression on his face. "Nah," Naruto said. "She's my sister's teammate." Konohamaru wiped his forehead in mock relief. "Phew. She's too vicious and her forehead. Too vicious. Sakura repeated, outraged. I'll show you too vicious. Kono-kun? Run. Naruto commanded. Konohamaru squealed and took off with his friends and Sakura in hot pursuit. We better follow and make sure she doesn't do anything rash to him, Naruto said, slapping some money down on the bar. Hinata did likewise and Naruto figured that Sakura could pay Tsunami back later. His clone nodded and the two of them plus Hinata followed after the others at a jog. They caught up to see Asuna Shinobi holding Konohamaru by his shirt. Moegi and Udon were cowering behind Sakura. Brat, said the Sunanin. I'll teach you to watch where you're going. He was wearing a black outfit with his sand badge attached to a hood with cat ears. He was wearing purple kabuki makeup and had a large bandage-wrapped object on his back. Let him go, Kankuro-kun, said his bored-looking companion. She had her blonde hair in 4 ponytails and had a large folded fan on her back. He isn't worth the trouble. I'd listen to your obviously smarter companion, makeup boy, Naruto said. He could not stand bullies. It's war paint, shrimp, Kankuro snarled. What are you going to do about it? You don't even have a shinobi badge. He started to remove his bundle. Really, Kankuro-kun? The blonde said incredulously. You're using that over this? Quiet, Temari-chan, he said. I hate nosy punks like him. Then you're going to hate it even more when Umbu arrests you and kicks the rest of your delegation out of Konoha for picking a fight with the Hokage's 8-year-old grandson, Naruto said with a smirk, but I am sure that they will have forgotten about losing out on the Chunin exams before they even began by the time you finally get out of jail in a few years. Temari whacked her companion in the back of the head. Can you not be an idiot for once, Ototo-chan? How was I supposed to know? He whined. You need a reason not to beat up 8-year-olds? Naruto taunted. By this time a presence that Naruto had noticed in a nearby tree began to leak killing intent. He did not recognize the presence, so he assumed the person was with Temari and Kankuro. There was something caustic about the presence and there was a sinister echo to the person's chakra. The presence appeared in front of the Suna Shinobi with a sand-customized body flicker. Kankuro, you're a disgrace, the figure said. Shut up before I kill you. Yes, Gaara-san, Kankuro said with an edge of fear in his voice. Gaara was a boy about Naruto's age. He had red hair and the kanji for love tattooed above his left eye. A tan-colored gourd was strapped to his back. He glanced over the Konoha group and then dismissed them. Kankuro, Temari, we're leaving, there's nothing for us here, he said as he started to walk away. The other two followed him. Naruto let out the breath he had not realized he had been holding. I want you girls to be careful if you run into them in the exams, he said. I am not too worried about makeup boy and fangirl, but Gourd-san. He paused. He felt of death and bloodlust. His chakra was very strong and there was something wrong with it. I know what you mean, his clone said. Naruto reached over to where Konohamaru had been cowering behind him and ruffled the boy's hair. Sorry, Kono-kun, he said. I'd like to play with you, but my sister will be unavailable for a few days because of the exams, so I want to spend some time with her. I'll play with you while she's busy. Naruto felt a little guilty about ditching the boy, but he wanted to relax before the exams and his Tsunami side's teammates were expecting her to spend the rest of the day with him. The boy and his friends pouted briefly before running off. Hinata and Sakura excused themselves too. Naruto stood just off the porch of the house in his mindscape that his mother lived in. He was reluctant to enter. All the previous night he could tell that his mom knew there was something wrong with him, but he had blown off her inquiries. From experience, he knew that she would not put up with it again. He had hoped that he would make progress in figuring out what was bothering him, but, if anything, the day's events had solidified his worries. His mother appeared in the doorway. Come in, sweetie, and tell me what's bothering you, she said in a kind, but no-nonsense manner. He sighed and followed her in. She gestured to a couch while she went into the kitchen. In hardly any time, she returned with tea. One advantage of his mindscape was that they could summon anything, including food and drink. The food and drink did not actually do anything for them, his mom did not actually need to eat, but it was comforting at times, and it did taste good. He sipped his tea before blurting out, Mom, who's the real Naruto? She sighed and asked, Is this about you acting differently when you're posing as Tsunami? He gawked at her. You knew. Not exactly, she said. I knew that you wore a mask at the academy and in the village. I also feared that when you started posing as Tsunami, that you would develop a different mask for her, since the point was that you wanted to be treated differently. If you recall, the whole disguise made me nervous. He frowned. It's not just Tsunami. Even when I am out and about in the village in my birth form, I act differently now than when I was in the academy, and I act differently with Konohamaru-kun than I do with Old Man Hokage or the shinobi supply stores. That's natural, Naruto, to a certain extent, she said. Everyone acts differently among friends or family than they do with professional contacts. Most people also act differently around their friends than they do their family. I felt like I only really act like my true self here, Naruto said. That's because you're keeping secrets from everyone, his mom explained. That's not true, he protested. The old man and Kurinai-sensei know. Are they your friends or peers? Kushina asked. No, they're not, he admitted. You should consider telling a friend or two, she said. I can't, he protested. Hinata-chan still likes mail me. It would make things super awkward. Sakura-chan would murder me. He shuddered. She would think I did it to spy on her like a pervert. What about other friends? She asked. Sasuke-kun, surprisingly, might be okay with it, but I find it hard to relate to him in anything other than training. I don't think talking to him about it would help much, same with Shino-kun. Kiba-kun, just no. Ivy heard him talking about female me in a way that made me feel unclean. Ivy had no real contact with Ino-chan, Chuji-kun, or Shikamaru-kun since we graduated. Konohamaru-kun is too young. You know that the longer you go on without telling your teammates, the worse it will be if they take it badly. He sighed. I know that intellectually, but every time I think about telling them I get physically ill, I can almost taste their scorn and loathing. His mom wrapped him in a hug. Oh, sweetie, if they're true friends, you'll get through it. But what if they aren't? He asked quietly. I think I'd prefer having fickle friends to no friends. He squeezed his mother and let her comfort him. Tsunami brought 4 armbands to the team meeting the next day. They each had a special seal on the inside. After Kurinai had handed out the forms for the exams, Tsunami handed out the armbands. What are these for, Tsunami-chan? Kurinai asked. When you taught us tap code a month ago, I thought I could make a set of seals that would allow us to use it in more circumstances, Tsunami responded. Tap code was designed to be used at night or in the dark when speaking was contraindicated. A series of long and short presses on the back of the hand or neck corresponded to hiragana, which could be strung together to make words or phrases. None of the genin were very fast at it yet, using or interpreting it, but the seals should make it a lot more useful since you did not have to be right next to a person to use it and it would send the message to the whole team. You focus chakra into the seal and all the other armbands receive the signal, she continued. At first I think we'll need to use fingers to use the seals, but eventually we should be able to focus the chakra through wherever the seal is touching our skin. This is a very clever idea, Tsunami-chan, their sensei said. Did you prepare it for the exam? The redhead nodded. I thought it would be a good place to use them. Obviously, you won't be needing yours yet, sensei. But since it was already made, I thought I'd give it to you. Thank you, Tsunami-chan, Kurinai said. Hinata and Sakura also expressed their thanks. Kurinai told them the location they needed to bring the forms to in the academy building and then left after wishing them luck. Look, Tsunami said. I know we can't make a lot of plans since we don't know what the exam involves, but I thought we could go over general strategies. You're both coming, right? The other 2 girls nodded, Sakura firmly and Hinata shyly. I think we should try and keep a low profile, at least to start off, Tsunami said. As an all-kunoichi team we'll be attracting a lot of attention anyway. We don't need other teams ganging up on us or thinking we're an easy target. Wouldn't it be better if they underestimated us? Sakura asked. Yes, Tsunami said, but not too much. If they all target us, we'll eventually get worn out, even if we're one of the stronger teams. Ah, that makes sense, the pink-haired girl responded. This means you should avoid fawning over Sasuke-san or fighting with Ino-chan, Sakura-chan, Tsunami said. But I've hardly seen him since graduation, Sakura whined. You'll make a better impression on him if you take the exam seriously, Sakura-chan, Tsunami said. When she looked dubious, the redhead added, "Look, your current approach hasn't succeeded in interesting him. Try something new. Besides, this will help your career as a kunoichi, which you said you wanted to do regardless of Sasuke-san." Okay, Sakura agreed reluctantly, but you'd better be right about this, Tsunami-chan. Tsunami sighed. How did she become the responsible one? Before they separated, they tested how tap code worked with the armbands and decided on some protocols to make it work better. The three girls met at their normal meeting place with plenty of time to make it to the academy before the first part of the exam started. Tsunami was excited, Sakura was nervously excited, and Hinata was nervously optimistic. In the months that they had been a team, Sakura had matured a bit and stopped assuming that she was a great shinobi just because she had been one of the best academy students and started working harder. Hinata had become more confident and aggressive, but was still shy. When they got to the academy building, Tsunami thought of trying to get in a different way, but decided that doing so would likely attract attention they were trying to avoid. She led her teammates through the main entrance. They were supposed to go to room 301, so they headed up the stairs. The door that led to the third floor was locked, and barred according to Hinata's Byakugan, so they exited the stairwell at the second floor. To her mild surprise, there was a group of shinobi gathered around the door to one of the classrooms. The room number on the door read 301 despite being only on the second floor. Two shinobi were preventing the others from entering and denigrating the other candidates. "Genjutsu?" she asked quietly. Hinata flickered on her Byakugan and replied, "Yes." "Let's get past them without making any waves," Tsunami said. They edged around the crowd as unobtrusively as they could. One of the bullies made eye contact with her, but did not call attention to them. The other stairwell was blocked going down, but open going up. On the third floor they found Kurinai waiting for them. Tsunami supposed that there was a monitoring seal somewhere that allowed her to know they were there, since no other sensei were present. She smiled at them. "I am glad to see that you are here together. This test is only for full teams. If one of you had decided not to come, I would be required to turn you away. Stick together and help each other out, and I know you'll do well." "Thanks, Kurinai-sensei," Tsunami said. Her teammates also acknowledged their sensei's words. Inside the real room 301 was a small table with two proctors sitting at it. They exchanged their enrollment forms for seat numbers. A glance at the arrangements showed that their assigned seats were not close to each other. While they were not the very first ones there, they were among the first. Rather than go to their seats, they elected to remain near the back and talk, or rather Sakura chattered at the other two. While Tsunami knew it would be best to take their seats to avoid attention, she could tell her teammates were nervous and allowed them to remain together. Chunin hopefuls filtered into the room. Most of them took their seats after checking in, but groups also gathered. The first people that they recognized were Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji's team. Ino waved at them, before settling in to watch the door like a hawk. Shikamaru rolled his eyes before slouching against a nearby wall. Choji joined him. Others filtered into the room. 5 minutes later the whole room's attention was caught by a squeal. Tsunami looked over and saw Ino hanging on a scowling Sasuke's back. She looked at Sakura's angry face. Her teammates started toward their old classmates, but Tsunami grabbed her arm. "I know we talked about this, Tsunami-chan," Sakura said, "but I can't just let it go." "Look at his face, Sakura-chan," she prompted. "He doesn't like it," the pink-haired girl said excitedly. "I can go and rescue him." "Look at how much attention they're attracting," Tsunami said. "Remember, we don't want to look too strong or too weak yet." "I agree with Tsunami-chan," Hinata said quietly. "Fine," Sakura said with a pout. "There will be other times to save Sasuke-san from Ino-chan's depredations, Sakura-chan," Tsunami said with a grin. The three kunoichi kept a clandestine watch on their old classmates while observing their other competition. Not long after Sasuke's team entered, Tsunami felt a small amount of killing intent. She looked over and noticed a Hyuga glaring at them. The boy was obviously in the branch house because he was wearing his leaf badge over his forehead, which main house Hyuga never did. His features were somewhat similar to Hinata's, so it was possible that they were close relatives. Tsunami was not sure how the main/branch split worked in the Hyuga family, other than being pretty sure that one could be condemned to the branch as punishment. The Hyuga boy was accompanied by a boy in a truly garish tight, green jumpsuit with orange leg warmers and a girl with her hair in buns wearing a pink sleeveless blouse and navy pants. "What's his problem?" Tsunami asked. Niji-ni-san is very talented, said Hinata sadly, perhaps the most talented Hyuga in generations, but he is in the branch house. He finds the situation hard to bear. He's your brother? Sakura exclaimed quietly. He's my first cousin, Hinata answered. Our fathers were twin brothers. Ive always thought of him as my brother, especially after his father died, but he's grown quite distant over the years. Distant did not seem to cover it to Tsunami. She wanted to ask why her cousin was in the branch house, but now did not seem to be a good time to ask about Hyuga clan policies and politics. Tsunami noticed when an older silver-haired Konoha genin with glasses joined the other rookies and started showing them some cards. After a few minutes, 3 genin with musical notes on their shinobi badge ran up to them. They were the typical 2-boy, 1-girl team. One of them with a bulky metal object on his forearm swung at the older genin. He was stouter and covered in bandages. He missed, but the Konoha genin toppled over, dazed. A small amount of blood leaked from his nose and his broken glasses hung off his face. Put this on your cards, for eyes, the assaulting genin roared. The shinobi from Otogekure will definitely become Chunin. A cloud of smoke filled the front of the room. When the smoke dissipated, it revealed several Konoha shinobi. In the center was a man wearing a dark trench coat and a blue kerchief over his head with the leaf badge attached to it. He had 2 long scars running across his face. Stand down, Oto genin, he growled. Any fighting without authorization from me is grounds for being sent home in disgrace on the grounds of gross stupidity. Sorry, sir, the attacking Oto genin said. This is our first time and we let the excitement get to us. Sorry doesn't cut it, maggot, the lead proctor said. One more mistake and you're gone. All of you get to your places. My name is Marino Ibiki, Tokubetsu Jounin of Konoha, and for the duration of this test, I own you. The fact that the Oto genin had attacked a fellow Konoha nin made Tsunami angry. She palmed one of her seals from her holster and slapped it on the underside of a desk as she passed. She activated a seal on her collar and said quietly, what a bunch of morons. You'd have to be an idiot to attack a shinobi in their own village while surrounded by their comrades. Marino-san must think their stupidity will make a good object lesson for him to let people so incompetent through. The seal on the desk broadcasted her words, disguising them as a deep, masculine voice. The seal spoke by vibrating the air over an area, making it hard to pinpoint exactly where the voice came from. It was loud enough that the whole room heard it. To her delight, one of the Oto nin, the skinny one with spiky hair, screamed, which of you tree huggers said that? Whoever did is dead. Get that moron and his team out of here. Growled Ibiki. Proctors in Chunin vests surrounded the Oto nin, grabbing their arms. The loudmouth was spluttering in protest. The Oto kunoichi was pale as a ghost. The bandaged one grimaced. You can't do this. The loudmouth said. Our leader will. Quiet, Zaku, the apparent leader said. I protest Oto's only team being ejected before the exam even begins. You should have thought of that before you agreed to come with someone as unprofessional as your buddy, Ibiki said. My other teammate and I would be willing to compete as a short-handed team, he said. Ibiki shook his head. The rules are quite clear. Only full teams are allowed to compete for the first 2 stages of the exam, but more importantly, you've managed to irritate me. Maggots who irritate me don't last very long. What about the punk who triggered this? The Oto nin growled. Is Konoha going to show favoritism? Ibiki smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. If you can pick out the offender, I'll kick him and his team out too. If you can't, well, let's just say he was right in his assessment and will allow him to stay. The Oto shinobi frowned, but nodded. He pointed to an older Konoha genin not far from the desk with the seal. Are you the one who spoke out of turn? Ibiki asked the accused. No, sir. I am not, he answered. The voice was clearly different than the one that had triggered Zaku's blow-up. The scar-faced man arched an eyebrow at the Oto nin. He's disguising his voice, the Oto shinobi said. If you can't prove that he is in the next few seconds, Ibiki said, we're done with this. I've already given you more time than you deserve. The Oto ninja remained silent. Get them out of here, Ibiki growled. And there better be no more disruptions from the supplicants. As they were leaving, Tsunami saw the Oto kunoichi whispering frantically with the proctor escorting her away, but she was much too far away to tell what she was saying. Those genin who were still standing found their seats and Ibiki explained the rules. You started with 10 points. Each wrong answer cost a point. If you were caught cheating, it cost 2 points. Anyone with 0 points was kicked out with their teammates. One question would be asked orally near the end of the exam. It looked like a few people wanted to protest, but Ibiki stared them into silence. At the signal, Tsunami turned over her exam. The questions looked to be much harder than what a genin or even chunin would be expected to know. She mentally laughed. They looked to be as hard as the questions that she had been tested with on Naruto's Genjutsu Academy tests. She wondered if this was where Mizuki had gotten the questions. She could answer 1 or 2 of the questions at best, and that was only because of the extra tutoring that her mom gave her in her mindscape. After thinking about it for a few moments, she realized that the test, with its odd scoring system, was designed to see if they could cheat without getting caught. She sent her teammates over their tap code armbands, signaling that she was the one sending. Test too hard. Odd scoring. Want us cheat? Byakugan? Over. Sakura responded. Hard, but can answer. Over. Hi, Hinata sent. 2 answer questions too fast. Plants? Over. She sent. Nada gives answers. Kara checks. Over. Copy. Hi. Copy. Out. Hinata sent the answers to the questions via tap code. Sakura signaled that the answers that Hinata gave were correct. The process was slow, since they were not that fast with tap code, but they still had more than enough time to finish before time was up. After Sakura stopped writing and was about to turn her sheet over, she jerked oddly. Tsunami noticed that Ino was slumped over in her seat. Tsunami recognized the mind-body switch in action. She also noted some other cheating, some more subtle than others. It was hard to know what the proctors thought was acceptable and what was not because they only called out people that had been caught enough times to fail. Time's up, maggots, Ibiki growled. Put down your pencils. He waited while all those still working did. He explained the extra rules for the last question. He explained that they could opt out of the last question, failing the exam, or they could take it and risk the special consequence for the question, being permanently banned from participating in the Chunin exams if you missed it. There were loud protests at this that were quickly quenched. He explained that all of the Kage and village leaders had authorized the punishment, if he felt it were needed, and that the Odo shinobi had irritated him enough to implement it. 2 candidates immediately gave up. Hi, her teammate sent over the armbands. Plants leaving first. Out. The fact that there was no matching teammate or teammates only confirmed that to Tsunami. Tension filled the room and others followed the plants out. The teammates of the quitters were also forced to leave. The whole thing was fishy to her. She knew Old Man Hokage better than most and knew that he would never agree to the punishment. He was all about second chances where possible. He certainly would not delegate that authority to a Tokubetsu Jounin. She also did not see foreign leaders giving that authority to a Konoha nin. There was too much chance for abuse. She looked over and saw her teammates wavering. She sent. Don't quit. Trick. No authority. Over. You sure? Over. Hi. Scarman very convincing. Over. Positive. Other villages never give Konoha authority. Over. There was a pause before her teammates sent their responses. Copy. Over. Hi. Copy. Over. Out. The tension mounted as teams continued to quit. Ibiki waited stoically. The other proctors smirked. Finally, after no one had quit for several minutes, Ibiki said, "Is everyone certain they want to take the question? This is the last chance to save your career." When no one else quit, he said, "Very well. You all pass." The room exploded into shouts and yells, some happy and some angry. Ibiki silenced them and then explained the purposes of the test, to see if they could be sneaky and to test their determination. He told them of the risks they had to be able to take as shinobi and especially chunin. He took off his kerchief and showed them the disturbing scars that he had accumulated as a shinobi. As he was readying his kerchief, one of the windows shattered and a bundle crashed into the opposite wall. The bundle was a banner that was nailed to the wall with a couple of kunai that followed it. The weight that had propelled the banner into the room crashed loudly to the floor. The kunai were followed by a figure somersaulting through the broken window. The figure halted under the banner, which read, "The stunning and sexy second exam proctor Mitarashi Enko-sama." The figure spoke, "This is no time to celebrate. I am Mitarashi Enko, your new proctor." After a little bit of good-natured sniping between Ibiki and Enko, all the candidates made their way to Training Ground 44. None of them elected to follow Enko out the window. The entrance to Training Ground 44 was gated. They found Enko standing prominently next to an ominous sign that declared Training Ground 44. The Forest of Death. Keep out. Sakura managed to position them next to Team 7. Naruto took the opportunity to examine the other candidates, since there were not as many distractions as there were in the first exam. Nothing stood out to her, as she really did not know anyone other than her old classmates. She did notice again one girl who had hair almost the same color as she did. However, she had not been able to get a good view of her shinobi badge in order to tell which village she came from. She was pretty sure, however, that it was not Konoha. Kiba made a big production of scoffing loudly about how easily he would lead his team through the so-called Forest of Death. Enko threw a kunai at the boy, which grazed his cheek and caused Akamaru to fall off his head when he flinched. The proctor quickly caught the boy in a headlock and licked the blood off his cheek. "It's the loud ones that always die first and provide the blood that I love so much," she said. An androgynous Kusa-nin used his tongue to hand the knife back to Enko. "You," said Sakura. Hinata shrank into herself at the display. Frankly, Tsunami did not blame them, but she kept a neutral expression in order to avoid attracting attention. "Don't react," she said quietly. Enko explained the rules of the second exam. Each team would be given one of two kinds of scrolls, a heaven or an earth. They would need both scrolls to be admitted to a tower on the far side of the forest within 120 hours, 5 days. They were to capture the other type of scroll from another team by any means necessary, and all of their team had to survive. To heighten the tension, Enko made them each sign waivers that absolved Konoha and the proctors of blame if they died or were crippled during the test. With a last admonish of "don't die," Enko had her assistants lead each team to a different gate into the training ground. They had received a heaven scroll. Tsunami sealed it into a special storage seal that did not interfere with other seals. Tsunami tapped. "Nata. Byakugan. Tell which team's near Earth scroll." "Over." Hinata flashed on her jujitsu and then tapped, "Hi. Only see 2 teams. Both heaven." "Over." "Tsu. Drat. Out." After about 10 minutes a bell was heard and the assistant proctor let them into the forest. As soon as they were out of sight of the gate, Tsunami formed 6 shadow clones with the idea that they would each run the mind's eye technique and spread out on all sides of them several hundred meters. Tsunami herself also ran the mind's eye technique, just in case. While her sensory technique was not as detailed as Hinata's Byakugan, they had about the same range, 500 meters, and she had the chakra to run it continuously, even with multiple clones out, while Hinata did not. They ran for about 10 more minutes, before stopping to talk. "We have a pretty big advantage," Tsunami said, "in that Nata-chan can tell what kind of scroll our competitors have at about half a kilometer away." Hinata blushed at the praise. "I can send out scouting shadow clones," Tsunami continued, "to find people, and then once I find them, we can bring Nata-chan in to see if they have what we need." "That sounds like a good plan," Sakura said. "We don't want to fight anyone we don't have to, right?" Naruto nodded. "Even if we win, which I expect we would most of the time, we could give away information that we don't want to." "What about Nijini-san?" Hinata asked. "His range is bigger than either of ours." Tsunami shook her head. "I know his chakra signature. Even if he chases after us, I'll know it before Aichi gets close, especially with my scouting clones." "Do you really think he would chase us down?" "He would take our scroll given the opportunity," Hinata said sadly, "but he would probably think it was beneath him to chase us down if there were other opportunities within reach." "Do you think we should run from them?" Sakura asked. "We need to get a scroll from someone, don't we?" I would rather not fight any other Konoha teams at this point, Tsunami said. Not even Nata-chan's jerk of a cousin. Plus, we want to keep a low profile, remember? You said that your cousin is good. Do you know anything about his teammates? Hinata said, just generalities. The boy in green is another taijutsu specialist. I know that Niji-ni-san looks down on him, but he looks down on everyone, so we don't really know his skill level, Naruto finished. Hinata nodded, looking embarrassed for her cousin. The girl is weapons specialist. She must be good at it, because Niji-ni-san doesn't insult her beyond her not being a Hyuga. Tsunami snorted and Sakura shook her head. Tsunami stretched and said, any preference in which direction we head? Both of the other girls shook their heads. How about south? Tsunami offered. Sounds good to me, Sakura said. Tsunami summoned a clone and then dispelled it in order to tell her scouts which direction they were headed. Unfortunately, the first two teams they encountered to the south each had heaven scrolls. How could we end up in a group of 4 teams that all had heaven scrolls? Naruto complained. Maybe they knew Nata-chan could tell which ones they had and didn't want to make it too easy for us? Sakura suggested. If they're competent at all, they'd have to know that the Byakugan can identify the scrolls at a distance. They better have done the same to Nata-chan's jerk of a cousin, Tsunami groused. Hinata giggled. He would hate that. Do you think it would teach him some humility, Nata-chan? Tsunami asked. Hinata giggled some more. Doubtful, Nami-chan. He's completely hung up on fate and thinks that the world is out to get him. He'd see it as validation. Makes me want to pity him as well as hate him for. Tsunami said before cutting off as she got memories from a dispelled clone. What is it, Nami-chan? Sakura asked. Found another group, she said. Their chakra signatures are weak, so if they have the right scroll, I say we go for it. They approached the group and stopped when they were about 400 meters away. They're from Suna, Hinata said. Their formation is sloppy and they do have an earth scroll. The bigger of the boys is carrying it. Can you tell if they're specialized? Sakura asked. The most famous tactics Suna uses revolve around wind manipulation using fans, puppets, and cloth manipulation. They each have non-folding Tessen, iron warfan, on their backs, but they don't have the chakra reserves to be able to pull off many elemental manipulation techniques, if any, Hinata answered. So they're beginner, or wannabe, wind users, Naruto said. I'd watch out for wind chakra coating their Tessen, but probably not too many long-range techniques, Sakura said. She hesitated. Suna is our closest ally. We should refrain from killing them, right? Hinata coughed delicately. The alliance exists only because Suna hasn't figured out a way to gracefully exit it. But I agree, I see no reason to kill them. The fight could not even really be called a fight. Hinata and Tsunami each ambushed one of the boys while 3 of Tsunami's clones took on the girl, and Sakura and more of Tsunami's clones stood overwatched to make sure none of them would escape. All 3 Sunanin went down with barely any sound. Tsunami's extra clones were not even needed. These guys were chumps, Naruto said as she rooted through the bigger boys' pack to collect their scroll. She found it and put it in the same storage seal as the Heaven Scroll. That would have been much harder if we weren't in such a dense forest, Nami-chan, Sakura mentioned. We do have a pretty substantial home field advantage, even without ever having set foot in this particular forest. They were still chumps, Tsunami said. Sakura snorted and said, I don't really disagree. Hinata giggled. Let's head toward the tower, Tsunami said. The sooner we're done, the better. The other 2 agreed and Naruto sent out her scouts again and they took off at a good pace. Hold up, Tsunami said as she received memories from a scout shadow clone that had dispelled herself. A single shinobi is heading toward us, being chased by a large animal. I recognize their chakra from earlier in the tests, but there were too many people for me to have nailed down which candidate they are. They have a lot for a genin, almost as much as Kurinai-sensei, but it's untrained and passive feeling. Are they going to miss us? Sakura asked. Tsunami shook her head. No, they were headed right for us. Should we move a little and see if they are really headed for us? Hinata asked. Good idea, Sakura said. Tsunami made more clones that headed off in the direction of the unknown shinobi. The 3 of them switched directions and kept moving. A minute later, Tsunami said, they've switched directions to follow us. Their chakra is starting to feel panicked and desperate. You should be able to see them now. Nada-chan. Hinata activated her eyes. It's the red-headed Kunoichi from Kusa, she said. She's being chased by a large bear. She doesn't have a scroll on her. She's from Kusa? Tsunami muttered. I could never get a glimpse of her shinobi badge. You think she's a relative, Nami-chan? Hinata asked. Her hair color is almost the same as yours and there are some similarities in your chakra. I don't know, she replied. It's possible that there were refugees from Uzushio other than Mom. I think we should help her. The other two agreed and they ran toward the other girl. Sakura and several Tsunami clones peppered the bear with kunai in order to snag its attention, while Tsunami approached the other redhead. The boar roared in anger and charged Sakura. Before it had covered half the distance, Hinata dropped out of the trees and fried its brain with a gentle fist palm strike. The bear collapsed with a thud. Thanks for the save, the red-headed Kusa-nin said. Her messy red hair mostly covered her grass badge. She wore glasses and had red eyes. I am Karen. I am Tsunami and these are Hinata-chan and Sakura-chan. She gestured to the others. Why were you coming towards us? I was just running from the bear, the other redhead protested. I could tell that you changed direction when we did, Tsunami pointed out sternly. You're a censor too? Karen said, fingering her hair. Tsunami nodded, figuring she could give away a little if it helped to confirm the girl was an Uzumaki. Hinata-chan too, but you knew that already if you know anything about the clans of Konoha. You have the warmest chakra out of anyone in the forest. It reminds me a little bit of my mother's, Karen said, flushing a little. I was just glad that you were close. What happened to your teammates? Sakura asked. We stumbled into a small group of bears, she said. I don't know what happened to them. Do you need help finding them again? Hinata asked. Karen adjusted her glasses and looked again at Tsunami. I don't really get along with them, or anyone in Kusa really. Kusa took us in when I was small, but they never really accepted us and they pretty much worked my mom to death. I was hoping to use the exams to slip out of their grasp. Where did you come from before Kusa? Tsunami asked intently. My mom came from Uzushio, she whispered. Mine too, Naruto said, smiling. Uzumaki? She nodded, grinning slightly. If it's true that you're an Uzumaki, I am sure Hokage-sama will let you stay, Tsunami said. You'll probably have to take a medical exam to make sure, but it shouldn't be too onerous. That would be great, Karen said. We can talk more when we get to the tower, Tsunami said. We've got what we need, so we can go straight there. Tsunami knew she was taking a risk by admitting that. But she desperately wanted to believe that Karen was not only a relative, but a friendly one that would be able to come live with her. Her teammates looked wary, but were willing to follow her lead on this. They moved out again with Tsunami and Karen in the lead and Hinata and Sakura behind them. Tsunami also kept a pair of shadow clones close at hand, just in case. 20 minutes later, Tsunami stopped as her scout clones detected someone ahead of them and one of them dispelled. There's a single shinobi up ahead of us, Naruto reported. It's the Konoha shinobi that was showing cards to those rookies before the first test, Karen said. You can tell? Tsunami asked, surprised. I am a very good censor, Karen commented smugly. My range covers the entire training ground and all of Konoha. He distinguished himself enough for me to remember what he felt like. Can you tell anything else about him, Karen-san? Sakura asked. His chakra feels cold and patient. It's also tightly wound too, which is odd, Karen said. What could cause that? Tsunami asked curiously. It could be any number of things. He could be suppressing his chakra or he could naturally have dense chakra, she said. It's not anything I've encountered before, so I really couldn't say. Let's get closer so that Nada-chan can see what he's doing, Tsunami said. When they got close enough for Hinata to see with her Byakugan, she said, he's just sitting there. His leg is in a splint. He is a Konoha shinobi. Sakura said. Karen grimaced. I don't want to say that you shouldn't help your comrade, but something feels off about this. He doesn't feel pained or worried, like someone with a broken bone should. I think he's a medic, Hinata said. Maybe he deadened his pain? He's still hobbled by an injury in the middle of the forest of death with hostile shinobi and animals around, said Karen. He's way too calm for that. I think we should go see if he needs help, Tsunami said. We can be careful about it. As a precaution, I'll have shadow clones standing by to swap us out if there's a problem. She looked at her apparent relative. I think you should stay here, Karen-chan, while we approach him, since you're not a Konoha shinobi yet. I'll leave some clones to protect you and tell you when to approach or to direct you on the way to go to meet up with us. The other 3 kunoichi agreed, and Tsunami made 3 shadow clones to stay with Karen. When they approached the older Konoha nin, he called to them gratefully, I am glad to see some fellow Konoha shinobi. My name is Kabuto, and I got separated from my team. I am Sakura, and these are Hinata-chan and Tsunami-chan, the pink-haired kunoichi said. What happened to your leg? Kabuto laughed ruefully. I was running and stepped into a gopher hole and twisted my knee pretty badly. It's nothing I can't recover from in a day or so, especially since I am a medic, but this is a really bad place to get injured, so I am very happy to see you. Do you need help finding your team? Tsunami asked. That would be best, but I can't ask that of you, Kabuto said. How about you help me get to the tower? I don't think it's far and I can wait for my team by the entrance. I should be safe from animals there at least. I think we can manage that, Tsunami said. I can make some shadow. She was cut off as she felt something slap her twice on the back. Her chakra oscillated erratically, and the memories of all her current shadow clones came rushing into her mind as they all dispelled. She toppled to the ground and saw another Kabuto standing over her, smirking. Her peripheral vision saw other Kabutos standing where Hinata and Sakura had been. They must have been tagged by whatever technique or seal Kabuto's shadow clones had used too. The original Kabuto came and stood over her, his splint having been removed from his leg. You've caused me quite a bit of trouble, Tsunami-chan, he chided. I was watching you when the Oto team got called out during the first exam and I saw your lips moving in time with the voice. Because they got kicked out, Orochimaru-sama required my teammates to test Sasuke-kun and my cover will be blown, but I'll have my kilo of flesh in return. Orochimaru-sama and I have been curious as to whether you're really Namake's daughter, so my kilo of flesh will be literal flesh. His smirk became devilish. However, it's your teammate who has determined which kilo of flesh will be taken. Ive always wanted a Byakugan to play with, so I suppose it won't be a full kilo. I'll only take 1 each. You can be a matching set of crippled kunoichi, assuming you don't die of blood loss or shock. You might even be able to keep being shinobi, Kakashi-kun managed. Kabuto leaned over and a green chakra blade flashed in front of her face. Her left eye erupted in pain and she heard and felt her eye removed with a slurp. The last thing she heard was cruel laughter before darkness took her. Bite. Naruto heard a vaguely familiar voice command. He bit down until he felt resistance. It felt like a person's flesh. He started to release it. Bite, Tsunami-chan, the voice commanded. I can heal people when they bite me. It's the only way I can stop the bleeding without cauterizing your eye hole. She remembered the forest, her cousin Karen, and that smug jerk Kabuto stealing her eye. She tentatively bit down again. Harder, Karen commanded. She bit until she felt her teeth pierce Karen's flesh. She felt a warm energy enter her and the pain in her eye stopped hurting. Stop. Karen commanded. Let go. I need to help the others too. Tsunami immediately let go and the warmth ended. She opened her eye and saw a concerned Karen rubbing her arm normally. I can only safely heal 1 person a day, Karen said. I think I stopped you soon enough that I can heal your friends. Karen proceeded to do the same thing to Hinata and Sakura with Tsunami helping her. They each glowed with chakra while they were biting Karen. If their situation were not so serious, Tsunami would be amused at Karen trying to get each of them to bite her. She frowned at the fleshy emptiness in her teammates' eye sockets. Tsunami wondered how much chakra it would take to replace her eye, certainly more than replacing her finger. Her teammates were handling their disfigurement differently. Sakura looked worried and more than a little angry. Hinata was looking more and more depressed. What happened here, girls? Karen asked. I knew that guy was suspicious, but I never expected this. The smug jerk said he was working for Orochimaru, Tsunami said. Why would he tell you that? Karen asked. Did he expect you to die before you could tell anyone? That seems incredibly sloppy. He said he would be outed anyway since his teammates were ordered to attack another Konoha team, Tsunami answered. Sasuke-kun! Sakura exclaimed. We have to help him. I don't think any of you are in any position to save anyone, Karen said. It will take a lot of training to be able to fight effectively with only one eye. You could save him, Nami-chan, Sakura said. You can grow back your eye, like your finger, can't you? Karen turned to her, wide-eyed. You can do that? Do you have the healing bite technique too? Tsunami stilled herself. She wanted to trust her newfound cousin, but she was technically a foreign shinobi. This made her irritated with Sakura for outing her. Although she figured that Karen would find out sooner or later, assuming she had enough chakra to fix her eye. I have a rare Uzumaki healing bloodline that's pretty powerful, Tsunami admitted. I've never heard of the healing bite technique before now, so I don't know if I can do it. Do you know the limitations of it? Karen asked curiously. I think the only limitations are that I need to be aware enough to use it and I have to have enough chakra to use it. You have a lot of chakra, Karen said. I mean more than anyone else in Konoha, substantially more than the Hokage even. She paused. Do you think you could replace your eye more than once? I could transplant an eye from you to your teammates. Kusa taught me surgery techniques. They taught you healing techniques? Sakura asked. Why did you have us bite you if you could do that? Karen snorted. Why would they bother to teach me something like the mystic palm when they can just bite me? It's not like they cared about the poor foreign shinobi. They used my mom up until she died and were planning on doing the same to me. Don't bother transplanting an eye for me, Hinata interjected sullenly. My shinobi career is over. Why are you giving up, Nada-chan? Tsunami asked. Even with only one eye, you could still be a shinobi, look at Kakashi-sensei. I bet with your Byakugan it would hardly be a disadvantage. The clan council will brand me with the caged bird seal and then never let me leave the clan compound, she said, growing quieter as she talked. Traces of her old stutter were creeping back into her speech. They would do that without giving you a chance to prove yourself? Sakura asked. They already think I am weak, Hinata said bitterly. Losing an eye would only confirm it beyond all doubt. It would give them an excuse to move the timetable up and sequester me to remove the stigma of the failed heiress from the clan. Your father. Sakura started to say. My father agrees with them, Hinata said, her bitterness increasing, and even if he didn't, he wouldn't waste political capital in the clan on me when he has another daughter who fulfills everyone's expectations. All three of the other girls stared at her in horror. The Hokage. Tsunami said. The Hokage would be sympathetic, but he can't afford to alienate the Fuga clan, Hinata said. At that point no one knew what to say to her. The silence was depressing and awkward at the same time. Naruto began to think about her transformation ability. There was something about it that niggled at the back of her mind. Her mother had thought that she could transform into a girl because either the Kyuubi was female or because she and Mito were female and so the Kyuubi's chakra understood female. She could replace her finger because she knew what it was like with it there. Could she duplicate a Byakugan eye if she knew what one was like? If Karen transplanted Hinata's remaining eye into her, could she make another? The odds were that she would destroy her other eye. The odds were also very high that this would out her as Naruto. She looked over at her dark-haired teammate. All the work that she, Sakura, and Kurinai had put into making her more confident had evaporated in moments. In fact, she seemed worse than she had ever been. She had to make the offer. Even if she hated her for pretending to be a real girl, at least she could escape the fate she had outlined. I think I know of a way that might replace your eye, Nada-chan, Tsunami said. I don't know if it will actually work, but we can try if you want to. I'll try anything, Hinata said desperately. My healing bloodline isn't really a healing bloodline, Tsunami said quietly. I can use it for healing myself, but it's primarily a transformation bloodline. It has some limitations in that I can only transform into things that I understand. I can make an eye that looks like a Byakugan eye, but I can't make one that works like a Byakugan because I don't understand it. Having a fake Byakugan would not work, Hinata said. My clansmen would notice when the veins in my left temple do not protrude. Why aren't you an infiltration specialist? Karen asked. Because I don't want to be, Tsunami said. I really don't have the temperament for it. Plus, some of the things that infiltration specialists do. She shuddered. The Hokage likes me enough to humor me. Please don't spread my bloodline around though. If others knew about it, the Hokage might not be able to ignore it. She took a breath and turned back to Hinata. If Karen-chan transplants your remaining eye into my empty socket and then I use my bloodline, I might be able to duplicate your eye because my body would understand it after using my bloodline. There's a risk that it would make your remaining eye a normal one without me learning how to make Byakugan eyes. Of course, if it works, you'll be giving the Byakugan to someone who is not a Hyuga. Hinata closed her eyes, the remaining one in the empty socket, and remained silent for a long time. Finally she said, the Hyuga clan needs to change. I love my sister, but she is not the one to change it. She has become invested with the Hyuga concept of strength. Most of the problems the clan has now stem from paranoia about losing control of the Byakugan, or at least using that paranoia as an excuse for control. I would rather give the Byakugan to a loyal friend than to have the Hyuga clan remain a cold, dysfunctional family. She paused and then smirked. Plus, I really don't want the caged bird seal. Tsunami snorted. You had us going there with your noble considerations for your clan's future. Nada-chan, I would make the sacrifice if I thought it was good for my clan, Hinata said seriously, but since I don't think it is, I don't have to make the sacrifice. I hope it works for you, Nada-chan, said Sakura before turning to Tsunami. So Naruto-san could look like a girl, even if he weren't fully functional? He has the same bloodline, right? Tsunami froze. This discussion was what she was hoping to avoid. I've seen Nami-chan as her transformation technique and it doesn't change her chakra signature, Kura-chan, Hinata said. I can tell if it were him at a glance, even without seeing internals. You both use your bloodline rather than the standard disguise technique, right, Nami-chan? Tsunami nodded dumbly. She felt incredibly guilty for not telling her friends the truth right then. However, dropping that bombshell while they were in the middle of a life or death struggle seemed like a bad idea. She resolved to tell them when the situation was less life-threatening. Naruto-kun? Karen asked. Who's that? Nami-chan's brother, Sakura answered. Is he cute? Karen asked. Nada-chan thinks so, Sakura said wickedly. Kura-chan. Hinata protested. Both she and Tsunami both turned bright red. Does Hinata-san have a boyfriend? Karen asked teasingly. Hinata turned even redder, before drawing herself up and visibly calming herself. I think Naruto-kun would make an excellent boyfriend, she said regally. However, both our situations do not allow for that to happen right now, if ever. So you don't mind if I chase him, do you? Karen teased. Karen-chan. Tsunami protested. She was almost as flushed as Hinata had been. You don't even know him. Karen looked at Hinata, who pressed her fingers together. I don't have any real claim on him, you'll have to talk to Nami-chan about permission. Karen smirked and turned to Tsunami. So do you think your brother would like to restore the clan with me? She adopted a sultry pose. Tsunami finally realized that Karen was hamming things up in order to get their minds off of what had happened. She laughed. You got me. Just don't make me think about my brother like that anymore, okay? The other girls all joined her in laughing. I think we ought to find a place to hide out, Karen said. I'd be happy to do the surgery for you guys, but it should wait for tomorrow. I've used up quite a bit of my chakra with the healing bite. I'd like to have some in reserve, just in case. That's a good idea, Tsunami said. But before we leave, we should try and figure out how Kabuto got the drop on us so that it doesn't happen again. I've figured out some of it at least, Karen said. There's a dead area in the ground here. I can't sense any of the insects and worms that are always in the ground here. I usually don't pay any attention to that, but I've been trying to figure out how his clones just appeared out of nowhere. There's a distinctive chakra surge when a clone is created and that didn't happen here. While we've been talking, I flipped over a few stones. Look. She pointed toward where she had flipped over a stone. Some pill bugs and earthworms were visible. Even seeing them I can't sense them, Karen said. You can sense bugs? Tsunami asked, feeling a little bit odd. I am nowhere that good a sensor. I have a really strong talent as a sensor, Karen said proudly. Normally I could sense bugs if I concentrated, but these are invisible to me. She's right, Hinata said. She had her Byakugan activated. There's something in the ground that's blocking my Byakugan. He must have used a technique to shield the ground from sensing techniques and then hidden clones underground. Then he got me with a technique that destabilized all my contingency clones before they could rescue us via replacement, Tsunami said. What kind of technique could hide him from the Byakugan and Karen-san's exceptional sensing technique? Sakura asked. Has to be a seal if it's still active, Tsunami said. Can either of you find the center of the dead area? Yes, both of them said. After a moment of wandering around, Karen said, right here. She pointed to a medium-sized rock. Hinata nodded agreement. Tsunami flipped over the rock. Underneath it was a card, which had a seal array on it. The only thing that she recognized off the top of her head was a self-destruct sequence with a time delay on it. This has a time-delayed self-destruct on it, she said. That's why he didn't bother to collect it. That's too bad, Sakura said. Something this might be useful to you if you could figure it out. Who says I can't? Tsunami said with a smirk. She picked it up and placed it in a special storage seal. I put it in a stasis seal. Now the countdown timer is halted. Smart, Sakura said with an answering smirk. All right, Nada-chan, Tsunami said. Find us a good hiding place to spend the night. Okay, she responded. Hinata found them a large tree that had a hollow in it that was barely large enough for the four of them. It looked like the hollow had been made by aspiring chunin many years earlier using various elemental techniques. After they had settled down, Tsunami said, I am going to send out 20 shadow clones to see if I can't find Sasuke-san's team. Between them and my sensory technique, I should be able to find him within a couple of hours. Karen said, before you found me I sensed a very large and very foul chakra signature to the northwest. I bet it was that Orochimaru guy. Can you still sense him? Tsunami asked. She shook her head. If a skilled shinobi suppresses their chakra, I can only sense them when they're nearby. I could only sense him from far away because he was using chakra. Thanks, Karen-chan, she told her cousin. I'll start my search over there. She formed 30 shadow clones. 10 of them she kept nearby in order to guard their hiding spot, the rest she sent looking for Sasuke, Kiba, and Shino. An hour later she received memories from a clone of the clone that had found them. She formed a clone and dispelled it to tell 10 of her clones to converge on Shino's location and dispel the rest. I found them, she told the others. Are they all right? Sakura asked. Sasuke-san and Kiba-san are unconscious, but still alive, Tsunami answered. Shino-san and Akamaru-chan are watching them. She hesitated. Kiba-san will recover in a day or so. Shino-san isn't as sure about Sasuke-san. Orochimaru did something to him and he's running a pretty high fever. We have to do something. Sakura exclaimed. I am doing something, Kara-chan, Tsunami said. IVE directed 10 of the clones I sent out earlier to go help Shino-san. He's very competent. I am sure they'll be fine. Maybe Karen-san can go heal Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked. Tsunami shook her head. It's not a normal illness. My clone looked him over. The traitor put a seal of some sort on him. It's too advanced for me to do anything about it, but I don't think Karen-chan can do anything about the symptoms without removing the seal first. That's correct, Karen said. They tried to get some sleep, but they were all anxious for what the next day would bring. The next morning after a silent breakfast, they prepped for the surgeries. First was removing Hinata's remaining eye and transplanting it into Tsunami's empty socket. Are you ready for this, Hinata-san? Karen asked. Hinata nodded and said, put me to sleep, please. Don't wake me up until I have 2 eyes again, one way or the other. Being blind is a particular phobia for Hyuga. Karen performed a technique that put Hinata to sleep. Are you ready, Tsunami-chan? She asked. Yeah, put me to sleep too, Karen-chan, Tsunami responded. The next thing she knew, Karen was telling her to bite again. She took a brief snack of her cousin's chakra. She blinked both eyes. Karen's healing bite made her recovery from the surgery almost instantaneous. That looks so odd, Nami-chan, Sakura commented. She held out a compact mirror for Tsunami to look. She took the compact and looked at her face in the mirror. She agreed that she looked odd with mismatched eyes. You ready to see if you can activate the Byakugan? Karen asked. They had all agreed that Tsunami would have a better chance of replicating Hinata's eyes if she could activate her bloodline ability first. Yeah. Hinata had said that most Hyuga activated the bloodline without seals or with just one, but she had taught Tsunami the set of seals that were taught to Hyuga children for use when they were just learning to activate the bloodline. She went through the hand seals horse, tiger with lifting just index fingers, boar with nearly straightened fingers, hare, rat, dog, horse, dog, hare, rat, boar with nearly straightened fingers, and snake with the right index finger lifted straight up. She set chakra to her new eye as she did the last seal. The world opened up to her. She had a hard time comprehending what her new eye was showing her, but after a few moments she could focus on individual parts of the vision field. Whoa! She said. That's intense. It worked? Sakura asked. Yeah, she responded. This part of it definitely worked. Now for step 2. She concentrated and transformed into Sakura. That's kind of freaky, Sakura muttered. Stand side by side. Karen said. They did so. Tsunami-chan looks a lot like Sakura-san, Karen said, but she's still a little taller and her figure is a little bit fuller. The face looks amazing though. Not a chance I changed then? Tsunami asked. Yep. Karen answered. Tsunami took a deep breath and said, time for step 3. She concentrated and transformed back into herself, but focused on having Byakugan eyes like Hinata's. They look like Hinata's eyes, Sakura said. Tsunami ran through the sequence of hand seals again. The world opened up to her view again. This time she had an easier time focusing on individual objects in her view. The veins on both sides of your temples are engorged, Karen said. I think it worked. Tsunami heaved a sigh of relief while Sakura raised a fist into the air and uttered a wordless shout of joy. Karen put Tsunami under again. She woke up to a dull ache in her eyes and Hinata hugging her and repeating, thank you. Over and over again. They had decided to forego having her bite Karen again to conserve Karen's chakra. You're welcome, Nada-chan, she said. It's the least I could do for my dear friend. Her eye sockets were bandaged shut to cut down on the bleeding and reduce the risk of infection. It was odd to think that she was currently blind and without eyes. After Hinata composed herself, Tsunami used the transformation technique to give herself eyes. She felt drained, like she had just created more than 100 shadow clones. That was taxing, even considering her reserves. Are you all right? Karen asked. You just used a huge amount of chakra. Yeah, she said. Just a little tired. Unwrap my eyes please. Someone carefully unwrapped her eyes. She opened them to see Karen's smiling face. Amazing, Karen said. Give me an hour to recover before the next surgery, Tsunami said. I can wait, Sakura said. I am just happy you're able to do this for us, Nami-chan. Tsunami smiled and said, like I told Nada-chan. You guys are my friends. While they waited, Tsunami wondered if she could change the way the Byakugan looked and still keep its function. She concentrated on making Byakugan eyes with green irises and black pupils and then did her transformation technique. She peered at her eyes with Sakura's compact. They looked like Sakura's eyes. She ran through the Byakugan hand seals and sent chakra to her eyes. Success! What are you doing, Tsunami-chan? Karen asked. Experimenting, she answered with a grin. Notice anything? You copied Hinata-san's eyes again, Karen answered. Not exactly, she replied. Hey, Sakura said. Those eyes are the same color as mine. Nata-chan? Tsunami asked. Do you mind if I give Kara-chan your Byakugan too? I don't mind, Hinata answered with a smile. You two are more like family to me than my own clan. You both will just have to be very careful not to get caught using it. Do you think that Shino-san would let us know where he gets his sunglasses from? Tsunami asked with a smirk. After Karen transplanted Tsunami's left eye into Sakura, they took some more time to recover. Tsunami used her transformation ability to recover her eye. She made her eyes into Byakugan eyes in her normal blue color. Karen had Sakura bite her so that she would recover from the transplant. Tsunami was not willing to take more than an hour before they set out again. While they had waited, Hinata had shown Sakura how to activate her Byakugan eye. Sakura figured it out quickly, but like Tsunami, she found the output from the eye confusing. Even without Tsunami and Sakura being able to use their new Byakugan effectively, avoiding the dangers found in the forest and the other contestants was trivial using Tsunami's shadow clone scouts with their sensory ability, Karin's much greater sensory abilities, and Hinata's Byakugan. Any one of the three would likely have been sufficient, but after falling for Kabuto's trap, they were thankful to have the redundancy. They arrived at the tower hours later. The door led to a small, empty room. The only thing inside was a riddle written on the wall. While Naruto was not as stupid as many thought she was, riddles were not her strength or interest, so she left the solving of it to Hinata and Sakura. I think we need to open our scrolls, Sakura said. It makes sense, Hinata said. They told us at the beginning not to open them until we got here. Both at once or one at a time? Tsunami asked. Probably both at once, Sakura said, since they are both required to pass. Tsunami removed the two scrolls and handed the heaven scroll to Sakura. Ready? She asked. Sakura nodded and they both unfurled the scrolls. Symbols expanded and connected the two scrolls. Summoning seal. Tsunami yelled. Drop them. Both girls dropped the ends of the scrolls they were still holding. Irika appeared in a puff of smoke. Irika-sensei? Sakura said. Their old academy instructor smiled at them. I am glad to see the three of you made it. Who is your friend? Tsunami put her arm around Karin's shoulders. This is my cousin, Uzumaki Karin-chan. She got separated from her team after running afoul of the wildlife. Kusa hasn't treated her well and she would like to request asylum from Hokage-sama. Irika's smile grew. His hand twitched. Naruto thought that if she were in her male form, the teacher would have ruffled her hair. However, Irika had always paid more attention to Naruto than Tsunami for both good and ill. That's great, he said. I am sure Hokage-sama would be happy to talk to you after this part of the exam is over. Actually, Irika-sensei, Hinata said. Something else happened in the forest that we need to talk to Hokage-sama about. If Hokage-sama is extremely busy, we could talk to the lead proctor, but I strongly suggest that you send for Hokage-sama. Irika looked quite startled, but nodded. He rapped on one of the unmarked walls of the room using a code that Tsunami did not recognize. The wall opened and the five of them stepped through, passing one of the Chunin proctors. I'll lead you to a room where you can relax and then I'll pass your message up the chain. It may take some time before someone is able to see you. The four kunoichi acknowledged him as they followed him. About 2 hours after the four kunoichi had settled down in their room, there was a knock on their door. Karin had been offered her own room, but after having saved all of their lives, the Konoha kunoichi trusted her. On her part, Karin had not wanted to be all alone and definitely did not want to run into any Kusa shinobi if any of them made it to the tower. Tsunami activated her mind's eye technique and recognized the chakra signature of the person outside their door. It's Ji-chan. She exclaimed. Ji-chan? Karin asked. Sakura made side with exasperation. She means Hokage-sama. You're the Hokage's granddaughter. Karin exclaimed. She's not, Sakura answered with a smirk. He's just too kind to disabuse her of the notion. Tsunami blew a raspberry at her teammate. As one of the few who treated my brother with any amount of kindness when he was little, he's more than earned the title. Plus, he likes it when we call him Ji-chan. Why would people be mean to your brother? Karin asked with a frown. We'll explain later, Sakura said. Tsunami opened the door and wrapped the Hokage in a hug. He chuckled indulgently and said, I am happy to see you too, Tsunami-chan. Please, come in, Hokage-sama, Hinata invited. Tsunami let go and allowed the Hokage to enter. Irika-kun said that you needed to tell me about what happened in the forest, Hinata-chan? He asked. But first, why don't you introduce your friend? This is Uzumaki Karin-chan. Tsunami exclaimed. She's from my clan. She certainly looks like an Uzumaki, the Hokage said thoughtfully. You represent Kusa? Karin nodded nervously. Yes, Hokage-sama. My mother took refuge in Kusa when I was quite young, but they never treated us well and worked my mother to death. When I encountered Tsunami-chan, I was hoping that I could switch allegiance to Konoha to be with her and her brother since I have nothing good as a future in Kusa, plus they're the only family I've found since my mother's death. The Hokage nodded thoughtfully. It's a possibility we can discuss after this part of the exam is finished. What happened to your team, Karen-san? They ran afoul of the large bears in the forest. I am pretty sure they didn't survive. If it's not too much trouble, Hokage-sama, could we just hide that I made it out of the forest from Kusa? The Hokage nodded. We can do that at least until the exam is over. At that time we'll have an interview and decide if you have a future with Konoha. He looked over at Hinata. Was there something else you needed to discuss, Hinata-chan? While this is potentially good news for Tsunami-chan and her brother, it doesn't strike me as urgent. Yes, Hokage-sama, she said seriously. We ran into a Konoha shinobi who attacked us and claimed that he was Orochimaru's agent. The Hokage frowned and held up a hand. Was Karen-san present? She was observing at a distance, Hokage-sama, Hinata said. We've already discussed what happened with her. The Hokage nodded and reached into his robes and pulled out a strip of paper and slapped it onto the door. He channeled chakra into the seal on the paper. Tsunami recognized the seal for one of Konoha's more intricate privacy wards. It's best that I hear what happened myself before deciding who else should know, he explained. Hinata explained how Kabuto had ambushed them and what he had said. She ground to a halt, however, when she realized she would have to admit that the traitor had stolen her eye. Tsunami noticed her reluctance and put a hand on the other girl's shoulder. It's all right, Nada-chan, Ji-chan won't condemn you for that. Hinata nodded, but could not make herself continue. To help out her friend, Tsunami explained about the stolen eyes and how Karen had saved them with her healing bloodline and she had replaced their eyes with her transformation bloodline. She also gave him a report on what her clones had learned had happened to Team 7. The Hokage brought out his pipe and packed the bowl with tobacco. He lit it with a small burst of fire release chakra. He took a pull on the pipe to make sure the tobacco lit and then blew a puff of smoke. Sakura frowned at the display, but she evidently did not have the guts to tell the Hokage not to smoke. This is quite disturbing news, the Hokage said finally. Do you plan to have your clones stay with Team 7, Tsunami-chan? Tsunami nodded. IVE made an agreement with Shino-san to help protect them, especially against Kabuto's traitorous teammates. IVE told him that I won't help them get a scroll, but that my clones would help them otherwise. That's reasonable, the Hokage said encouragingly. I am happy that you decided to help your comrades. Ji-chan? She asked. Do you recognize the description of the seal on Sasuke-san? The Hokage sighed with deep regret, taking another pull on his pipe. I do. It's a very problematic cursed seal called the Cursed Seal of Heaven. Unfortunately, not even Jiraiya can remove it, but we do know a way to limit its influence. The evil sealing technique? Tsunami asked. The Hokage nodded. Do you know it? Tsunami nodded. I do, but it will have little effect if it's applied while he's unconscious since it's linked to willpower. It's best to wait until he wakes up. When we first encountered Orochimaru's cursed seal 10 years ago, only one of his 10 victims survived, the Hokage said. We don't know what enabled her to survive: luck, chakra, strength of will. He trailed off and then shook his head. Sakura looked horrified. Tsunami felt equally sick inside. As Naruto, he had become friends of sorts with the abrasive boy. She definitely wanted him to survive. I am sure he'll survive, Karachen, she said. He's too stubborn to die without avenging his clan. Sakura gave her a weak smile. True. Hokage-sama? Hinata asked weakly. Isn't it best to keep the details of this incident to yourself? The Hokage smiled at her indulgently. Yes, I think so. The parts about the eyes being stolen and Tsunami-chan's ability to recreate and replace Jujutsu are S-class secrets of the village. If Kumo, or any of the other hidden villages really, found out. He shuddered. Because of this, I want any uses of the Byakugan by Sakura-chan or Tsunami-chan to be kept completely hidden. As part of this, you are both forbidden from trying to learn or replicate the gentle fist. Kurenai-kun will need to know, but I will inform her myself in order to make sure she understands my decision and the implications. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Hinata said with earnest relief. The Hokage gave her a gentle smile. Think nothing of it, Hinata-chan. It is always pleasing to me when the needs of the individual correspond to the needs of the village. If there's nothing else, I'll see you when this portion of the exam is over. At that point, we can make arrangements for Karen-san's future. Tsunami gave him another hug as the other girls said farewell to the village leader. After the Hokage left, Tsunami was forced to endure grilling from Karen about why her brother was persecuted. Naruto pushed aside her guilt once again and told her the same story she had first told the other two. So they hate him because he was born the day the Kyuubi was defeated and he has the whisker birthmarks that remind them of the fox? Karen asked, confused and angry. Tsunami nodded. I receive some negative attention because he's my brother, but I was 10 before I came to the village's attention and I've always hidden my whisker birthmarks. People are stupid, Karen said with a growl. Peer pressure saps IQ points, Tsunami agreed with a bitter smile. She tried to shift her smile to a more cheerful one and gave her clanswoman a light punch on her shoulder. Things are a lot better now. Can you make yourself look like your brother? Karen asked. Tsunami nodded cautiously. She transformed herself mostly into the shape of her male self but carefully kept herself female. She noticed that Sakura had activated her Byakugan, probably to see if her chakra changed. Wow, Karen said. He's cute. Naruto blushed and quickly changed back to the other girls' giggles. The rest of the day was quiet. Only one other team had arrived before they had, the Suna team that contained Gaara. Tsunami and the others were only too happy to avoid them. Karen remained in their room, but the others made quick excursions out, primarily to get food from the cafeteria. The next morning during breakfast, Tsunami received memories from a clone dispelling. The clone's purpose was to make sure she was aware of what had happened in the early morning. If she was sleeping while her shadow clones dispelled, their memories were buried in her subconscious and she had to actively look for them. Kabuto's teammates, she still did not know their names, had arrived late at night. Her clones had sensed their arrival and had informed Shino and Kiba. Kiba had still been groggy from the concussion he had received, but was otherwise mostly recovered. Shino had sent his Kakachu to stealthily incapacitate them while they were scoping out Team 7's hiding spot. They were bound and tagged with some chakra suppression seals her clones made before they knew what was happening. Tsunami made arrangements with one of the Umbu stationed at the tower to pick them up for questioning after Team 7 moved on. About an hour after the first shadow clone dispelled, another set of memories hit her. Sasuke had woken up radiating an evil, oppressive chakra. He had attempted to execute their prisoners and had dispelled a couple of her clones in the process. She waited anxiously for the conclusion of the scuffle. Thankfully, more memories hit her and she learned that her clones and Kiba had managed to talk Sasuke down by saying that they would suffer more under Marino's hand in the process of giving up all their secrets. A short while later another clone dispelled, letting her know that her clones had talked Sasuke into letting them apply the evil sealing technique after a frank discussion of the consequences of leaving it unopposed. Unfortunately, sealing the cursed seal used up the last of the chakra that her clones had, but with all three of Team 7's members awake and mostly healed, she thought they had a good chance of at least making it out of the forest alive. Hinata and especially Sakura were relieved to hear that Team 7 was back on their feet. Since they did not have a lot of room to train their more active skills, Hinata helped Tsunami and Sakura get used to their new Byakugan eyes. After 2 days, the two were able to use their new jujitsu to identify all the people they knew in the tower by moving their focus through their field of vision. However, they still had issues with the Byakugan's 360 degrees view and interpreting everything within their field of vision. Sakura had a large blind spot on her right side due to only having one Byakugan. This meant that she had to swivel her head and body to see everything, but being able to see chakra and to see through objects was still useful to her. They made a game of identifying the contestants as they arrived in the tower and introducing their chakra signatures to Karen. While Karen could not see them like Team 8 could, she had incredible accuracy with her sensing ability and could figure out who they were talking about. Karen in return gave Tsunami some tips on using her mind's eye technique. Tsunami discovered that there were advantages to both the mind's eye and the Byakugan. The Byakugan could see what a person was doing physically, while the mind's eye could give more indications of a person's character and feelings due to how their chakra felt. The first team to arrive after them was Hinata's cousin's team. They arrived at midday the day after Team 8. Team 10, containing Ino, Chuji, and Shikamaru, arrived early the day after that. Team 7 arrived late the same day as Team 10. They thought that might be it until a team from AIM arrived right before the deadline. The three Konoha Kunoichi, who had all become close to Karen during their time together, each gave their new friend a hug before heading off with the proctor who came to get them so they could participate in the end of the second stage. The 18 Chunin hopefuls lined up in front of a slightly raised platform which had sculptures of 2 arms making a ramhand seal at its rear. The 6 teams were lined up in order of arrival, with the Suna team on the left and the AIM team on the right bracketing the 4 Konoha teams. Since Tsunami's team arrived second, they had the unenviable position of being between the Suna team and Hinata's cousin's team. The gourd-carrying boy gave off a sense of unclean bloodlust to her chakra senses. Hinata was valiantly trying to ignore her cousin's belligerent glares. The Hokage stood in the center of the platform with the 6 senseis lined up behind him. Kurenai smiled at them encouragingly. The other Konoha senseis were also smiling, except for Kakashi, who was reading his book. The guy with the bowl cut who had a mini-clone on Hinata's cousin's team was particularly exuberant. The Suna and AIM senseis were stoic. The AIM sensei's chakra was restrained in such a way that Tsunami could barely feel it. If he were not for the AIM team's acceptance, Tsunami would not have guessed he was a shinobi. The proctors were lined up in front of the platform with half on either side of the Hokage. The lead proctor, Anko, stepped in front of the Hokage and said, "Congratulations on completing and surviving the second phase of the Chunin exams. However, since more than expected made it out of the forest, Hokage-sama will explain what needs to happen before we clear you for the finals." She stepped back into line with the other proctors and the Hokage explained that they needed to participate in a preliminary elimination round and how one of the purposes of the Chunin exams was to gain prestige for their village by doing well in front of the daimyos and other prospective clients as a kind of mock war. There was some major grumbling over the do-or-die nature of the preliminaries, but the Hokage told them to put up or shut up in nicer terms. The Hokage was in turn interrupted by Proctor whose name was Gecko Hay-8 and whose most prominent feature was his chronic cough. Hay-8 explained that the contestants would be randomly selected by an electronic display. Tsunami rolled her eyes. She doubted that it was truly random. They would face off against their opponent and fight until one of them had given up, been incapacitated, or killed. The proctor had the option to end a fight if he thought one of the contestants had been clearly defeated. At that point letters flickered across the display until it showed Rock Lee of Konoha versus Kankuro of Suna. The boy with the bowl cut on Hinata's cousin's team shouted in excitement, "Yosh! My youth must burn brightly to be chosen to go first." The sensei who looked almost identical gave him a thumbs up and shouted, "Show them the power of youth, Lee Kuan." "Yes, Guy Sensei." The boy shouted in response. Hay-8 directed the other contestants, proctors, and senseis to adjourn to the balcony to watch the match. The Suna shinobi dropped his bundle as he approached Lee in the center and began to insult his opponent even before the match began, but this made the strange boy more determined rather than intimidated. Tsunami's sensor skill told her that the real boy was in the bundle rather than whatever was talking to Lee, although some of his chakra was present in the figure. Perhaps this was one of Suna's famous puppets? When Hay-8 started the match, Lee leapt forward and struck the figure of the Sunanin. Instead of the sound of flesh hitting flesh as Lee hit the arm of the figure, Tsunami heard the splintering of wood. Whatever technique made the puppet look human vanished as the figure was now obviously carved from wood. The previously discarded bundle that contained the real Sunanin stood up and shouted, "That was a lucky shot, Konoha Wimp." "Ah, one of Suna's famous puppeteers!" Lee exclaimed. "This will be an exhilarating trial of my youth." Despite the Suna shinobi's bluster, Lee made short work of the puppet. He was simply too fast and strong for Kankuro to hit with the puppet's tools. Within minutes the puppet was reduced to a pile of wood and metal scrap. "Do you realize what you've done?" Kankuro shouted. "Yes," Lee exclaimed. "I have boldly displayed my youth for all my peers to see." He mimicked his sensei's earlier thumbs-up gesture complete with sparkling smile. The Sunanin pulled out a knife, and with a wordless scream, charged his opponent. Lee sidestepped the distraught shinobi and knocked him out with a tap to the back of the head. As Kankuro was carried off the floor in a stretcher, the other contestants anxiously watched the display to see who was next. Hay-8 read the names that appeared, Uchiha Sasuke of Konoha versus Haruno Sakura of Konoha. Sakura whimpered next to Tsunami. Tsunami smiled encouragingly at her teammate. "Give it your best shot, Kara-chan. He'll never respect you if you give up now." "I'll never beat him," Sakura complained. "Probably not," Tsunami acknowledged. "Sasuke-san is pretty tough, But you might get lucky and you might impress him if you do a good job, regardless. Just do your best, Kura-chan, Hinata said encouragingly. Sakura steeled herself and joined Sasuke down on the floor. Ino jeered at her that she would look like a fool before Ino's true love. Sakura ignored her and set her stance for her fight. She received a slight nod of acknowledgement from Sasuke in return. When Hei-8 began the match, Sakura quickly jumped back to create space between her and Sasuke. She quickly wove one of the genjutsu that their sensei had taught her. Sasuke halted his steady advance and looked confused for a moment before his eyes turned red with the Sharingan and he stared at her with a smirk on his face. Sakura frowned and pulled out a handful of kunai and flung them at her opponent. Sasuke withdrew his own kunai and deflected the ones that were thrown at him as he continued to advance. He closed to taijutsu range where they exchanged blows. Sakura actually did better than Tsunami had expected, as she had really taken to Kurinai's taijutsu style, but Sasuke was still better, even discounting the advantage the Sharingan gave him. In the end, Sakura ended up on the ground with a kunai at her throat. "Yield," Sasuke said. "I yield," Sakura said softly. Sasuke stood up and glanced down at her with a blank expression and said, "You've gotten better." He turned and walked away without saying anything else. Sakura turned to look at Ino and smirked. She got up and rejoined her teammates. Tsunami put an arm around her friend's shoulder and said, "You did pretty good, Kura-chan. If you had gone against anyone that didn't have a jujutsu, I think you would have had a good chance of winning. Poor luck with the draw." Hinata also murmured consolation to their teammate. The display next displayed the names Fuga Hinata of Konoha versus Fuga Niji of Konoha. A brief flicker of sadness and trepidation flickered over Hinata's features before they were replaced by resolve. Tsunami and Sakura wished their teammate good luck as she made her way to the center of the bottom floor. The pre-match trash-talking was especially vicious on Hinata's cousin's part. Hinata herself merely answered him serenely and politely, refusing his generous offer to save herself the embarrassment of a humiliating defeat. He nattered on about how he was fated to win and that she would always be a loser. Tsunami gritted her teeth in anger. If there were anything that she had always wished she had had more of, it was family. She hated that this idiot disrespected his own so much. She was under no illusion that the Hyuga clan was one big, happy family, but if any of them deserved love and respect it was Hinata. Not only was she a genuinely kind person, but as the heir she had a real chance to change the clan for the better. For the first 5 minutes of the match the two Hyuga looked pretty even on the surface. Tsunami could tell, however, that the cousin was just a little bit faster and a little bit more skilled. Eventually he managed to maneuver Hinata into a position where he was able to land a clean hit on her forearm. The redhead had been in enough spars with Hinata to know that the match was probably decided at that point. Sure enough, the one strike acted as the start of a positive feedback loop and the cousin began to be able to strike her more and more frequently until he managed a palm strike to her chest which launched her a short distance. Tsunami's breath hitched until she saw her teammate's chest rise and fall. The cousin approached her and stood a short distance away. "You see that you are no match for me, Hinata-sama." He snarled the honorific hatefully. "Your feeble attempts to improve yourself are just that feeble. You should have quit while you had the chance. For your impudence, you must swear to give up being a shinobi or I will end you now." "I will not," Hinata wheezed. "You must have seen that I have improved." "A meaningless improvement," the cousin said. "You are still fated to be an inferior shinobi and an embarrassment to the Hyuga clan." "Swear." Hinata shook her head and attempted to stand. The anger that had been present on the cousin's face bloomed into full rage. He moved to attack her. Tsunami struggled within herself. She wanted to stop him, but knew it was better left to the proctors and jounin. She need not have worried because the cousin was surrounded by the 4 Konoha jounin sensei before he could take half a step. Favoritism for the main house? The cousin sneered. "You're out of line, Genin," Kakashi snapped. "We would do the same for any of our comrades." Tsunami was mildly shocked by his response. She had never seen Kakashi act so seriously about anything other than his disgusting books. "You have been acting most unyouthfully," Niji-san, his own sensei, added sadly. Kurinai looked enraged and Asuma-san looked disappointed. Tsunami wanted to yell at the jerk, but decided that if she spoke up now she would just embarrass the Hokage in front of the Aim and Sunanin. The cousin haughtily walked off the floor with his head held high as Hei-8 announced him the winner, while Hinata was carried off in a stretcher. Tsunami wanted to go see her, but had to wait for her match. Sakura hurried off with Kurinai to the medical room to find out what the damage was. The display announced the next match as Gaara of Suna vs Oboro of AIM. The match was over in just a few seconds. Gaara summoned sand from his gourd and used it to crush the Ain Nin who had been attempting to summon clones. The unfortunate Ain Nin was left an unmoving pile of blood and crushed bones. Even more disturbing was the fact that the Suna Nin seemed disappointed in the lack of effort it took. Instead he was staring hungrily at Sasuke and the Hyuga cousin. There had been an odd echo in his chakra as he used the sand, as if there were two sources of chakra. Tsunami wondered if he were Suna's Jinchuriki. It seemed likely from what her mother had told her about the Ichibi, Suna's Biju. Tsunami was deeply disturbed that it seemed that Suna had sent a clearly disturbed Jinchuriki to Konoha, presumably unannounced. Aburame Shino was up next against Tenten, the female teammate of the Hyuga cousin and the enthusiastic Rock Lee. Shino started off by trying to put distance between himself and the older genin. Tenten responded by saturating the air between them with various weapons she pulled out of a specialized storage scroll. Shino kept himself in the match using misdirection, mostly by using some well-timed replacements with bug clones. After several frustrating minutes for Tenten in which Tsunami could tell that the older Kunoichi thought that she had the sly Aburame, Shino managed to maneuver a swarm close enough to her to engulf her. Tenten tried in vain to swat the insects that covered her. When that failed, she resolved to keep fighting, but her moves were noticeably slower and eventually she dropped to the ground. Proctor, Shino proclaimed, she is too exhausted to fight. Why? Because my Kakechu have drained her of enough chakra to incapacitate her. Just about all the genin still in the gallery looked disturbed. Ino looked especially affected. The only one that seemed immune was Gaara of Suna. Tsunami smiled as the next match was announced by the display, Tsunami of Konoha vs Mubi of AIM. While Konoha was not making a serious effort to hide her clan name, evidently the Hokage had decided to hide it from surface attempts at spying. Kurinai and Sakura were still checking up on Hinata, but Team 10 and Kiba all wished her luck. The Ain Nin wore a rebreather and a cloth mask wrapped around his upper head that covered his eyes and ears. Strangely, there was only one hole in the mask for one of his eyes. You'll regret what happened to Oboro, Mubi proclaimed angrily. Tsunami stared at him like he was stupid. I am from a different village than the candidate that killed your teammate, she responded. You're just unlucky that we have something to prove now, the Ain Nin proclaimed. Tsunami rolled her eyes, unimpressed with his bluster. Ironically, the match began with them both making clones. As a matter of course, Tsunami used a replacement with one of her shadow clones to obscure which one was the real her. Using her mind's eye, she could tell where the real Mubi was, under the stone floor. Her opponent had called out shadow clone technique when he had created the clones, but her sensory technique could tell that they were a different type of clone. This was confirmed when one of her clone's attacks went through Mubi's clones. Her only difficulty with her opponent's technique was that he was throwing kunai to correspond with attacks by his clones. Her mind's eye could not tell where the kunai were and the clones obscured them from her vision. Several of her own shadow clones had been popped by the kunai. She needed a way to force the real Mubi above ground. Luckily, her mother had shown her a seal that had been developed during the Third Shinobi War because Iwa Shinobi liked to use similar techniques. The seal was simple enough that she could use the chakra seal manifestation technique with it. She created a bunch more clones to make up for those that had dispelled. She replaced herself with a clone on the other side of the room and then flickered to just above where Mubi was. Chakra ground saturation technique. She exclaimed as she slammed her palm into the floor to cover the fact that she was using chakra manifestation and a seal. The seal, which actually was called chakra ground saturation seal, formed under her palm and saturated the stone and the ground underneath it. Tsunami's chakra disrupted Mubi's technique, which was probably the earth release underground projection fish technique, forcing him to come up. She quickly engaged him in close combat taijutsu. He was not bad at taijutsu for a genin, but she was much better. Within a minute she had him subdued. As Hei-8 declared her the winner, she thought about going to check up on Hinata. She knew that she should stay and scout her opponents for the third exam, but she could not help but feel that visiting her friend and teammate was more important. Luckily, she saw that Kurinai and Sakura had returned. Good job, Nami-chan, Sakura said. Thanks, Kura-chan, Tsunami replied. Kurenai added her congratulations. How's Nada-chan? Tsunami asked. Sakura and Kurenai both frowned. The Med-nin are 70% sure that she'll make a full recovery, but they say it will probably take a month, Kurenai said. Her jerk of a cousin messed her up pretty badly, Sakura added. He's a disgrace, Tsunami muttered. If I were the Hokage, I'd pull him from the exam and put him on probation over that stunt. Konoha does not condone murdering comrades. Kurenai shook her head. I can guarantee that he won't be getting promoted, even if he manages to win the finals tournament, but I doubt he'll be told why other than that he did not exhibit the characteristics looked for in a Chunin of Konoha. Why not? Tsunami demanded. How is he supposed to learn if no one tells him? She did not like the jerk, but thought he should be told that he was a jerk, in detail. Then maybe he would not be a jerk anymore and Hinata could have more of a chance at a real family. Kurenai sighed. It's an unofficial part of the test for Chunin. If the candidate can't figure out what qualities are important for a Chunin besides than martial prowess by themselves, they don't deserve to make it. Tsunami snorted and determined to tell him something, even if it were not exactly that he had failed the exams when he attempted to murder a fellow Konoha nin. The next match was Shikamaru versus Kiba. Kiba immediately began blustering. Alright, Akamaru. This will be easy. Lazy Bones has never managed to beat me. Tsunami shook her head. This match would inevitably shake out different than an Academy Taijutsu match. Shikamaru was very clever and an expert strategist. The only questions were if he was motivated enough to try and whether he had enough room to work with. Kiba began the match by tossing a pill toward Akamaru, which caused him to turn red and more feral looking. Shika flung a handful of kunai at them in a wide arc. Both the Inuzuka and his puppy easily avoided the flung knives and charged him in a crude pincer formation. Shikamaru started running in an arc around the room flinging kunai as he went in an apparent effort to put distance between himself and his opponents. The strategy did not succeed, however, because Kiba and Akamaru were faster than the Nara, even with the need to dodge kunai. Just as it looked like Kiba would catch Shika, the latter flashed a hand sign and seemingly teleported across the room. Tsunami snickered. He seeded the floor with replacement fodder. Shikamaru visibly relaxed. Running around the room was so troublesome, he grumped. Then stop running, Kiba growled. I would, but my mother threatened extra training if I didn't make it to the third round, Shika complained. You don't think she won't make you train for the third round if you make it? Ino called out. Troublesome, the Nara muttered. Kiba and Akamaru tried their pincer movement again, but Shikamaru replaced another kunai. This happened several times until Shikamaru ended up in front of one of the stone arms. The faint shadow cast by the light fixtures behind the arms suddenly lengthened and snared both Kiba and Akamaru, who were almost on top of each other with all their turning around. Shadow possession technique complete, drawled Shikamaru. He drew a kunai and flipped it around. Kiba did the same thing in sync with him. Akamaru just pawed at the floor since he had a different body shape and no kunai pouch. Sorry, Akamaru-chan, Shikamaru muttered as he forced Kiba to club his puppy with the hilt of the knife. I don't need to do anything drastic to you, do I, Kiba-kun? He asked. Kiba growled in frustration. No, you got me. I yield. The next match was Chuji versus the last of the Ain-nin Kagari. Chuji used his multi-size technique and then the human bullet tank technique to try and mow down his opponent. Kagari used the same techniques that his teammates had, summoning clones and hiding in the ground. Tsunami was irritated that the whole team was so one-dimensional. At least the Suna team's members had different specialties. Tsunami's mind's eye technique was not good enough to tell that Kagari was hiding under the floor from up on the balcony, but it became pretty apparent when Chuji rolled through all the figures on the floor. For the first time that afternoon the AIM team's strategy worked. Chuji tired himself out by remaining in his bullet tank technique for too long. Neither candidate could hurt each other while Chuji was a human bullet and Kagari was under the stone floor. But once Chuji released the technique he was a sitting duck for the other nin who had husbanded his strength more wisely. The last match of the preliminaries was Ino versus Temari, the last of the Suna nin. When I destroy you, Sasuke-kun will know that I am the one for him. Ino declared. Temari sneered at her. You're a disgrace to actual kunoichi, fangirl. Her lips twisted in disgust as she snarled the last word. Ino rolled her eyes dismissively. When Hey-8 gave the word, Ino launched a brace of shuriken. Temari negligently waved her fan, causing a blast of air to knock the missiles out of the air. She swung her fan again, more quickly, causing barely visible blades of air to spin toward the other blonde. Despite her obsession with Sasuke, Ino still put in some practice time. She was quick and agile and was able to dodge the blades. Temari continued to casually send blades of air at Ino, who was just able to avoid being slashed by the blades. Ino had no opportunity to do anything other than dodge. Tsunami noticed that Ino was being herded into a corner of the room where she would not have enough space to dodge. She hoped that the Suna girl was not as bloodthirsty as her teammate. Finally, as Tsunami had expected, Ino ran out of room. An air blade took off most of her ponytail. A follow-up blast of air threw her into the wall with a heavy thud. Ino slumped onto the floor. Temari approached her and stood over her. She prodded her with her fan, flipping her over. Ino looked up at her, dazedly. "I hope you realize that I could have killed you whenever I wanted," the Suna Kunoichi said. "However, I think making you look like a useless fool in front of your love interest is a worse punishment. Go back to your makeup and flowers, fangirl. You fail as a shinobi." Tsunami glared at the Suna girl. It was true that Ino did not take being a shinobi as seriously as she should, but she was a rookie genin. There was a reason why they were given easy missions. It was true that Ino was not really ready for the Chunin exams. Her team had probably only made it this far due to Shikamaru's intelligence. However, Suna was supposed to be their ally. They should not be sending bloodthirsty psychos to the exams. Hey-8 had all the winners come down and choose a paper with a number on it out of a jar. Tsunami drew number 7. Ibiki, from the first exam, wrote down each contestant with their number. She was curious as to what the numbers meant. She decided it probably had to do with their first matchup for the finals. She idly noted that her main competition, Gaara, Sasuke, and the Hyuga cousin, had drawn 1, 2, and 9, respectively. After a moment, Ibiki announced, "The tournament matchups are as follows: Gaara of Suna will face Hyuga Niji of Konoha, Uchiha Sasuke of Konoha will face Kagari of AIM, Aburame Shino of Konoha will face Tsunami of Konoha, Rock Lee of Konoha will face Temari of Suna, Nara Shikamaru of Konoha will have a first round bye. You will have a month to prepare before the tournament will commence. Good luck." Tsunami rolled her eyes. She wondered if anyone believed Ibiki was not manipulating the matchups. Kurinai congratulated Tsunami again on passing on to the final round of the exam. "What's the plan for the next month, sensei?" Tsunami asked. "Training," she replied. "I'll help you prepare for the finals as well as continue with Sakura-chan's training while we wait for Hinata-chan to recover." Tsunami nodded. Most of her real training would be with her mom while she slept, but Kurinai would have some useful insight that could be used to refine the techniques that she found in old clan scrolls. "We need to go and get Karen-chan," Tsunami said. "Hokage-sama told me to tell you that Karen-san must be interviewed before she has free reign of the village," her sensei said carefully. Naruto frowned and then sighed. She should have realized this would happen. She hoped that Karen had a better first interview than she had had as Tsunami. Kurinai led Tsunami and Sakura back to the village where they hugged each other before separating for their own houses. When Naruto got back to her apartment, she promptly changed back to her birth form. He sighed. He truly did not mind being a girl, and if it were taken from him somehow, he would miss it, but being one for long periods of time without changing made him anxious. He wondered if the opposite were true now too? He had never been in his birth form for more than a day since he had started the experiment with the Hokage. Since graduating from the academy, he now mostly was a boy while relaxing around the apartment and a girl while with her team. The only consistent exception to this was when he practiced with Kakashi's team. He wondered how this affected him. He was mostly the same in either of his standard bodies, but hormones did have an effect. As a boy, it was a little easier to lose control of his emotions and he lost his temper a little more easily, but as a girl, her emotions persisted longer and it was a little bit harder to regain control of her temper once she lost it. Of course, this rule of thumb did not apply as well around the time when she was menstruating. He considered himself lucky that she did not menstruate as frequently as other girls because of time spent as a boy. He thought that switching back and forth might make the effects of his hormones on his emotions were more obvious to him than they were to most people. Sometimes he missed his pre-puberty days when his emotions were simpler to control. He shuddered as he thought that it would only get worse. He was only 12. That night when he appeared in his mindscape, his mother enveloped him in a hug. He had not visited her in the forest of death because he was worried about being alert enough while sleeping. He usually did not visit her while on missions, a fact that drove her crazy with worry, but that she understood. In the tower the first night, he had not visited her because his clones were watching Team 7. After that, he had not visited because he was worried that she would be angry over Kabuto getting the drop on him and mutilating him, and their experiments to recover. He had been tempted not to visit tonight, but could not bring himself to worry her more, plus, he missed her. After she let him go, he described what had happened in the exam. She laughed at what had happened to the Odo team and was delighted to hear about Karen. She raged at what Kabuto had done. The tension he had been holding released when he realized she was not angry with him for being reckless. She was fascinated to hear about Karen's bloodline ability. "It sounds like your newly found cousin is descended from Uzumaki Aika," she said. "She was the first to have that ability and it manifests among her descendants regularly." "How closely related are we?" he asked excitedly. "I am not sure," his mother responded. "Actually, you're descended from Aika too, but the ability never manifested in the daimyo's family for some reason. If I were to guess, however, I'd say you're probably third or fourth cousins." When she heard about how he and Karen had solved Hinatasai problem, she beamed at him. "That's very clever of you, Naruto-kun," she said. Then she turned serious. "Be very careful using it. The Hyuga don't tolerate losing the Byakugan at all." She sniffed. "Plus, you have a perfectly serviceable Uzumaki sensing technique." He rolled his eyes. "I know, Mom. It was a spur-of-the-moment idea. I am not sure how much I'll use it. Plus, I think Hinata-chan was happy to share." She glared at him for his flippancy. He shrunk into himself until she stopped. Nobody could glare like the red-hot habanero. While he had never seen her in full rage, he had an inkling of how she had gotten the nickname. When he told her about the preliminary match, she smiled at him proudly and hugged him tightly. "I am so proud of you, my child," she gushed. "The Chunin exam finals as a rookie." He blushed. "My opponent was a pushover." "Nonsense," she stated. "It's true that he was one of the easier opponents, but dealing with that sicko, Kabuto, makes up for it." "Will you help me prepare for the tournament, Mom?" he asked. "Kurinai-sensei is good for our team, but she doesn't really know my style." His mom gave him the biggest smile yet and gave him a crushing hug. "Of course, Nara-kun," she said. "I'd love to help you." He told her about who was in the tournament. They started with strategies and tactics for fighting Aburame, but they both made sure to include ways to deal with out-of-control Jinchuriki. The next morning Tsunami went to see the Hokage to see how things were going with Karen. "Ji-chan," she said sternly after he had engaged his privacy seals, "you better hope that Scarface is treating Karen-chan better than he treated me."
Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. There is also a link in the description to my Patreon. It has Naruto fanfiction that cannot be posted on YouTube. There is some free content on there. So, you don't have to be a paying member to enjoy listening to excellent fanfiction.